Nekauku, NTA News.
Also, the European Union has granted additional 15 million euros to strengthen its assistance to the Nigerian energy support program towards ensuring an enabling environment for renewable energy and energy efficiency in the country. Adebola Brookslyn Sunday reports.
The Nigerian Energy Support Program has been in operation in the country since 2013 for the promotion of investment in Nigeria's domestic markets for renewable energy, energy efficiency, and to improve access to electricity for the disadvantaged, mostly in the rural communities. It is in a bid to ensuring more impacts on Nigerians that the co-funders are extending the grants with additional 15 million euro, making a total of 35 million euro, which will take the project to 30th November 2022.
We will continue to prioritize the objectives of renewable energy, climate change, as well as the goal of economic diversification and creation of decent jobs.
Especially when we look into the recycling of waste that comes out of renewable energy sites. And one core area that we want to go deeper into is recycling of batteries.
We are targeting 130,000 Nigerians having access to electricity. And we are talking about people that have never had.
The Nigerian Energy Support Program, in partnership with the German Corporation for International Cooperation, GIZ, is a technical assistance program co-funded by the European Union and the German government in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Power. Adebola Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
In other news, as part of efforts to acquaint the judiciary with the philosophy and thrust of the Petroleum Industry Act, particularly the most contentious areas, the Petroleum Technology Development Fund, in collaboration with the National Judicial Institute, has organized a 2-day workshop for justices and judges in Abuja. Lydia Sampson reports.
The passage of the Petroleum Industry Act is seen as a new reality in the transformation of Nigeria's oil and gas sector. As the industry is transiting to the PIA implementation, the workshop with the theme, Petroleum Industry Act, New Legal and Physical Regime in the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry, is taking note of the role of justices and judges as critical stakeholders in the implementation. Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, expects that given the national and international interest the PIA has generated, the judiciary's dockets will soon be populated by cases on how the law should be operationalized.
The participation and cooperation of every stakeholder is required and actively solicited. The law can have the desired multiplier effect on the economy, investments, infrastructure, employment, the environment and well-being of the citizens only when we all work together.
Consequently, this workshop will bring to the front burner the imperatives for correct judicial interpretation of the Petroleum Industry Act, that this would boost the development of our national economy.
For the Executive Secretary, Petroleum Technology Development Fund, Bello Aliu Gusau, the workshop is to help in the realization of objectives of the PIA while deepening understanding of the Act, which overhauls the legal and regulatory framework of the Nigerian petroleum industry, as well as clarifies the rules of engagement for the monetization of the nation's valuable hydrocarbon resources. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
We head to the National Assembly now, where Senate has confirmed the nomination of 5 persons for appointment as Secretary and members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo brings us details.
PIA implementation
plenary commenced with the presiding officer, the Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omar Gege, reading letters from President Muhammadu Buhari. One of the letters seeks Senate consideration of the 2022-2024 revised medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. which has increased federal government 2022 aggregate expenditure from 13.98 trillion naira to 16.45 trillion.
The PIA establishes a progressive fiscal framework. This significantly alters the oil and gas fiscal terms and has necessitated changes in the 2022 to 2024 medium-term fiscal framework.
That the President is likely going to submit the budget to the National Assembly on Thursday. It is important that these revisions are made.
President Buhari also requested the confirmation of Justice Hussaini Baba Yusuf as Chief Judge for the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory. Thereafter, Senate considered the report of its Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, which screened 5 nominees as secretary and members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The report presented by the chairman of the committee, Suleiman Abdulkwari, observed that the committee members were satisfied with the nominees' qualifications and suitability. George Kungu as secretary, with Lukman Muhammad, Anambra Adeze, Kola Adeshina, and Yahaya Muhammad as board members.
The Senate, we wish to recommend that the Senate do confirm the nomination of the underlisted persons.
Senate has passed the Tertiary Hospital Development Fund Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Sani Musa. The bill seeking to amend the compulsory treatment and care for victims of gunshots to expand its scope and establish medical emergencies assistance, sponsored by Senator Oluremi Tinubu, passed second reading.
Security agents and persons alike shall render every assistance to persons with gunshot wounds, etc.
If you get a criminal who is injured and you say you won't treat him, let him die. He dies with an information that will have helped the security agencies.
The River Basin Development Authority Act Amendment Bill, sponsored by Senator Ike Ekweremadu, also passed second reading. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
And still in the National Assembly, the House of Representatives has adopted a resolution urging authorities to take urgent and drastic measures to combat elements terrorizing people in Anambra State. The House says deployment of security to contain the menace will prevent it from snowballing into a crisis in the entire southeast. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The issue was raised by Representative Chris Azubagu, who escaped death by the whiskers last week Thursday. But one of his drivers was not as lucky, as he was shot dead following an attack on their convoy along Nnewi-Nobi Road. The House noted recent killing of Dr. Chike Akunyili, husband of late Dora Akunyili, and 8 others in the suburb of Onitsha, including the attack on the DSS and FRSC offices in Nnewi last Sunday, 3rd October 2021.
These killings are probably orchestrated by mischief makers who are bent on causing tension and panic in the state ahead of the upcoming November 6th governorship election in Anambra State.
In another development, Representative Roland Igbakpa, coming on the matter of privilege, has called on the federal government to make public name of the National Assembly member said to be involved in sponsoring terrorism.
The leadership of the House should liaise with their counterparts in the Senate to try and see Mr. President so that he can tell you, one, the person that is sponsoring terrorism among the 469 members. Then two, he should go ahead because he has the powers of prosecution to prosecute that person.
At the commencement of plenary, House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila read a presidential communication requesting consideration and approval of the revised medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper 2022 to 2024.
The revision was necessitated by the need to reflect the new fiscal terms in the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, as well as other critical expenditures in the 2022 budget.
3 bills passed second reading. A bill to make provisions for right to food, sponsored by House Chief Whip Muhammad Tahir Mungunu. A bill to establish Food Vendors Data Agency from Yunus Abubakar, and a bill seeking to amend Federal University Ikwo, sponsored by Chinedu Oga.
It is inherently contradictory for the Constitution to guarantee the right to life. On the other hand, woefully fail to provide the right to food.
10 bills passed first reading, including a bill to amend the National Broadcasting Commission Act and the Trade Dispute Act. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Time for our first break. Please stay.
The Northeast Development Commission wishes to announce the foundation laying ceremony for the construction of 500 mass housing units, flag off for the distribution of food and non-food items, commissioning and handing over of fully rehabilitated farm setters, tractors and other farm implements, and upgraded fully equipped molecular laboratory at the Federal Teaching Hospital Gombe. Graduation ceremony for the Batch B graduates of the NEDC ICT training program, inspection visit to Gombe Abba Kirfi Road, as well as completed and ongoing projects by the commission in Gombe State. Chief host, His Excellency Alhaji Muhammad Inua Yahya, Executive Governor Gombe State. Special guest of honor, Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk, Honorable Minister for Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Chairman of the occasion, Major General Paul Tarfa, retired Chairman NEDC Governing Board. Host, Muhammad Jal Kali, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Northeast Development Commission. Father of the day, His Royal Highness Alhaji Dr. Abubakar Shehu Abubakar III, Emir of Gombe. Date 6th and 7th October 2021. Venue, Banquet Hall, Common House, Gombe, Gombe State. Time 11 a.m. prompt. Attendance is strictly by invitation in accordance with COVID-19 protocol. Announcer, Organizing Committee.
Here today, gone tomorrow. 'Cause you volatile like the water. And you promise what you don't know. Sometimes it's right and then it's so wrong. Them go do like say them wise. Go promise you the world. Brother, all now worship. Upon all of the open eye. I see no fear water. King of the letter.
Smartphone Network. The federal government, through NPHCDA, commenced Phase 2 vaccination of all persons 18 years and above with safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines approved by WHO and certified by NAFDAC. Special arrangement has been made for staff, their dependents and retirees of ministries, departments and agencies of government, private corporate organizations and non-governmental organizations. To benefit from this special arrangement, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng/corporate vaccination/ to obtain, fill and submit the Google form. NPHCDA will contact you within 48 hours. Protect yourself, your family and your workplace against COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccines are free, safe and effective. For further inquiries, call 0700-220-1122 or send a mail to covid19.vaccination@nphcda.gov.ng. This message is from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
The Commandant, Nigerian Defense Academy, Major General I.M. Yusuf, wishes to inform the general public that the passing out parade of cadets of 68 regular course comes up on 9th October 2021. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. However, 31st convocation ceremony of graduating cadets of 68 regular course and postgraduate students comes up on 7th October 2021. Venue, Academy Auditorium. Time, 8:30 a.m. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Professor Emil Shibanjo, Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. The event is strictly restricted. Announcer, Major Bashir Muhammad Jajara, Academy Public Relations Officer.
The ITF has been a great partner of the Nigerian private sector.
They have been a veritable tool in the industrialization of this country.
It has become one of the key federal government institutions
that can be used as a benchmark for others to emulate.
To ensure that the skills agenda becomes government's topmost agenda.
Having had 50 years experience behind ITF, they will be able to lead the process.
You've impacted upon the lives of many, many Nigerians, particularly the young people.
Impacting on the life of women is impacting on the life of the family.
They have trained over 25 million Nigerians in the last 50 years of their establishment.
Keep it up. We look forward to the next 50 years of glory.
I wish them many more years of active service to our country.
ITF has done well. Nigeria is going
going to do well. Happy 50th anniversary.
Iheanacho near post and scores.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria will look to continue their excellent start to the World Cup qualifiers when they take on Lethobe of Central African Republic. Will Lethobe pull off a shock on the home soil of the Super Eagles? It's Nigeria versus Central African Republic at the Tesla Balogun Stadium in Lagos, Nigeria on the 7th of October, showing on the network service of the NTA and AIT from 4:30 p.m. with live radio broadcast on Cool FM, Wazobia FM and Nigeria Info. You can also join online at sporting.com and NPFL TV. The FIFA World Cup qualifiers are proudly brought to you by BetNiger and supported by MTN, Coca-Cola and Dettol, proud sponsors of the Super Eagles.
Thank you for staying. More than 157 billion naira is lost annually to pension fraud. A development that Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says it is determined to eradicate.
Pension fraud is said to have denied many Nigerian retirees the rest they deserve after spending their productive years serving the country. This workshop, organized by the EFCC, is aimed at addressing that, with stakeholders being trained to tackle the issue head-on.
This workshop to enable us to engage with relevant stakeholders and come up with, recommendations that charter, the way forward, for us in this industry. It's a problem. It's something that is unacceptable.
Secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, says government is ready to do all it takes to put stop to this menace.
This government is very conscious of its responsibility with regards to payment of pensions to eligible retirees in the federal public sector. For this reason, we are resolute in dealing with the criminal act of pension fraud in all its manifestations, especially those resulting from human interface.
The two-day workshop is expected to set the stage for a holistic approach to ending pension fraud in the country.
And in electoral matters, with barely 1 month to the Anambra governorship election, INEC is worried over the escalating security situation in the state. In order to provide a secured environment for the exercise, the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security is reviewing its strategies. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu is, however, optimistic that no amount of threat will deter the Commission from conducting the election.
The stated goal of many of the attackers is that the governorship election scheduled for the 6th of November 2021 must not hold. This is worrisome for the Commission. We are deeply concerned that specific electoral facilities and materials could once more become targets of attack. We will continue to work with the security agencies and in consultation with respected opinion leaders in Anambra State and the National Peace Committee to ensure that these hit-and-run attacks do not derail the electoral process. We wish to assure the people of Anambra State that the Commission is determined to proceed with the election as scheduled.
I wish to state that the Office of the National Security Advisor is working assiduously with relevant security and intelligence agencies toward arresting the foregoing ugly trend and other associated security challenges in the Southeast Zone and beyond.
Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, was among those who attended the meeting. The governors and leaders of the Southeast Zone have condemned the sit-at-home order and killings in the zone, resolving to join hands with the security agents to stop the incessant killings and further sit-at-home orders in the Southeast. This was contained in a communique issued at the end of a security meeting by the leaders of the zone in Enugu. Susan Eze has the details.
Rising from the meeting necessitated by the urgent need to salvage the Southeast Zone from the increasing rate of insecurity and disruption of free movement of people and economic activities, the governors and Southeast leaders totally condemned the acts and agreed to support the security agencies to restore peace in the southeast.
The meeting condemned the sit-at-home orders, which are mostly issued by our people in diaspora who do not feel the pains. In view of the information, the meeting resolved that governors and all the people of the southeast do everything within the law to ensure that there is no further sit-at-home in the southeast and that people are allowed to freely move about in the zone. The meeting agreed that Southeast Abuja security outfit be launched in all the Southeast states.
The Southeast governors and leaders also resolved to support the coming election in Anambra State and urged the security agencies to ensure a peaceful election in the state come November 6, 2021. The meeting received the committee reports from the Ohanese Ndibo on various matters affecting the zone and resolved to study them for immediate implementation and engagement with the federal government for amicable settlement of all issues agitating the minds of the people. Commending the religious and other groups for interfacing with the youths, the leaders encouraged the groups to continue to dialogue with the youths in the interest of peace. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
And still on security, the Nigerian Army exercise Still Water has commenced in earnest in various zones of the country. Defense correspondent Najato Tijani has an update from 3 states.
From Abeokuta, Yemi Dalemo reports that the 81 Division of the Nigerian Army operation, codenamed Stillwater, is aimed at boosting the professional capacity of troops to respond to the peculiar challenges in the area.
Ties will arrest and hand over to law enforcement agencies that are to deal with whatever criminal vices they are arrested or detained for.
We are giving a big notice to any hoodlum, anybody who thought he wants to do any nefarious act.
Similarly, Nigerian Army has commenced the operation in Asaba, Delta State, with the aim of ensuring law and order by combating security threats and crimes within the region.
I commend the Nigerian Army for its thoughtfulness and strategic foresight. Currently by troops of 63 Brigade and with personnel from paramilitary agencies drawn from various commands.
The growing cases of illegal oil pumping, kidnapping, armed robbery, pipeline vandalism, ritual killings, internet fraud, and militancy.
From Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, Achibong Basi reports that 13 Brigade Nigerian Army will focus on field training to foster civil-military relations in the region. Naja'atu Tijani, NTA News.
Elsewhere, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, has restated federal government's commitment to respond to the critical needs of citizens through interventions. This was while handing over relief materials to Governor Simon Lalong at the 3 Division of the Nigerian Army, Rukuba. Priscilla Gurumnan reports.
Following the crisis that engulfed some local government areas of Plateau State, President Muhammadu Buhari directed the distribution of relief materials to victims of the crisis through the Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. The Minister, Sadiya Umar Farouk, hands over these units of food and other items such as grains, building materials and beddings to the state government.
Over the unfortunate incidents as well as to hand over these relief items to you for onward distribution to the affected victims of the clashes in the 5 affected local government areas.
This will also go a long way to also reduce some of the pains that we know our people are having. We continue to pray that God will continue to grant them relief. And this relief is not this one. It's the relief of peace, so that they will have peace in their minds and peace within their communities.
Goodwill messages came from the DG NEMA and the Uja and Aguta of Jos North. The minister who inspects the pilot ICT building under the National Social Investment Program at the Obasanjo Model School Jos in Jos, Priscilla Grumnan, NTA News.
Member nations of the Lake Chad Basin have been enjoined to accommodate terrorists that are willing to surrender for demobilization, de-radicalization, and reintegration program. At the ongoing third meeting of the Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum holding in Yaoundé, Governor Babagana Umar Zulum of Borno State, Nigeria, called for regional holistic approach and collective efforts to establish a sustainable framework to handle the security crisis in the region. Justin Bem Unyi reports.
The insurgency crisis has continued to linger over the years in the Lake Chad region, affecting Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger, and Chad Republic. And according to key players, insurgency now is a major feature of the region, and if not properly managed, will be a threat to the entire West Africa. The sole use of force to curb insurgency has been able to limit the activities of insurgents, but has not been able to entirely bring an end to the incessant menace. As some of these issues have been raised, and concerns for the stabilization, peace building, and sustainable development of the region take center stage at the ongoing third meeting of the basin's governors, Nigeria's Borno State governor wants a social, economic, and political dimension to be applied, not just the kinetic approach.
What we expect from the member nations is that we want them to provide the needed support in receiving those that are willing to surrender at their own end, keeping them for some time and handing over them to the government of Nigeria.
As the progress for the implementation of the regional stabilization strategy in the Lake Chad Basin remains in focus here at the third Governors Forum, there has been a general consensus that more funding from the national government is needed to upskill, rebuilding, and stability of the most affected communities, which is key.
Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
Back home, as part of measures to effectively and efficiently manage public irrigation schemes to enhance agricultural development, key players are meeting in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, to establish and strengthen water users associations in the North Central Zone. Aisha Abubakar Yahaya reports that the workshop is at the instance of the Federal Ministry of Water Resources in collaboration with the Lower Niger River Basin Development Authority.
The North Central Regional Workshop on Establishment of Water Users Association for Management of Public Irrigation Schemes is to, among other things, share experiences among irrigation water users. The overall objective of the irrigation workshop is also to, among other things, improve access to irrigation and drainage services that will seek to strengthen institutional arrangements for integrated water resources management, as well as agricultural services delivery among farmers in the North Central. The Federal Ministry of Water Resources, according to the Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, who joined the workshop virtually, federal government is also bent on realizing the dreams of having one of the best agricultural sector globally.
This goal is only achievable through irrigated agriculture by promoting all-season farming, which is also one of the primary mandates of the Department of Irrigation and Drainage of the Federal Ministry of Water Resources.
I think Nigeria needs a legislative framework for the establishment, operation, regulation of activities of the Water Users Association.
The scheme is to ensure farmers complete involvement in irrigation from conceptualization, the planning stage to the implementation and management level with a view to sustaining it.
At the end of the workshop, farmers and relevant stakeholders in the agricultural sector will be better equipped on how best to boost farming, even without constant rainfall. Ahmed Shaba is a farmer who is optimistic that the workshop will help him become one of the greatest farmers in Nigeria.
It now expose me to other knowledges, technological knowledges on how to utilize the water for our planting activities.
7 states from the North Central Zone, namely Kwara, Kogi, Plateau, Benue, Kaduna, Niger, and the Federal Capital Territory, participated in the workshop. Aisha Abubakar Yahaya, NTA News.
Let's pause here in Abuja and have a feel of the latest in Lagos, where Adiola will guide us.
Thank you, Nyere. An important geopolitical checkpoint for the shipping and transportation of oil extraction in the Niger Delta, as well as goods to and from Central and Southern Africa, is the Gulf of Guinea. This explains why the Nigerian Navy seeks collaboration with Italian and French navies to secure the maritime domain. The International Maritime Bureau, IMB, says the Gulf of Guinea accounts for 43% of all reported piracy incidents in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the 47 incidents recorded same period of 2020. To further reduce these criminal activities to the barest minimum, the Nigerian Navy is not relenting in ensuring that the country's maritime domain is efficiently and effectively secured. Flag Officer Commanding Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Jason Bassa, re-emphasized that the issues surrounding the Gulf of Guinea constitute a threat to international trade and regional peace. He said the joint exercise with the Italian and French navies is an initiative to address the menace.
Knowing the global nature or the effects of these criminalities, we are going to conduct an exercise involving all our assets over 2 days.
In their separate remarks, the Italian and French Consular Generals say the joint exercise is a mutually beneficial one to the countries involved.
It is very important to us. We've had a very long-lasting cooperation with Nigerian Navy, and especially because we have a common goal, which is to fight against insecurity at sea and to make international trade route secure.
It's a very important cooperation because it helps to save lives, to grow the well-being of our nation.
With this collaboration, the Nigerian Navy will be more equipped and abreast of the needed skills and expertise to combat criminality in the Gulf of Guinea. In view of recent seizure connected with trade in wildlife, the Nigerian Customs Service is to carry out a DNA test on seized pangolin scales and elephant tusk to ascertain the country of origin. The National Public Relations Officer of the service, Joseph Atta, said this is imperative to intensify its crackdown on illegal wildlife trade. Michael Olaleye reports.
Exactly 2 months ago, pangolin scales, claws, and elephant tusks worth 22 billion naira were intercepted and seized by the Customs Strike Force Team Zone A. Just last month, donkey skins close to 12,000 pieces built for exports were equally intercepted at the Apapa ports. Like a stillborn defiling all medications, the trade in wildlife persists, and this time, more than 1,000 kilograms of pangolin scales and claws, carefully arranged in 15 sacks, were seized along Kudirat Abiola Way, Oregun, Lagos. The discovery was not accidental, but a product of credible intelligence in the process of further investigation to arrest other members of gang indicted in the August 4 seizure.
2 suspects have already been arrested in connection with this seizure. They will also be charged to court to answer for their crime.
The customs, no doubt, is receiving support from the wildlife justice system and embassies of USA, UK, and Germany. But stopping the flow of this illicit trade is, however, instilling new ideas.
We have some of our international collaborators who are around to conduct a DNA test so that we really know exactly which country, which origin, and all that.
The clarion call from the customs is that all members of the public must join the vanguard to end trade in endangered species for the preservation of the ecosystem. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NTA News.
And those are the stories from this end. We'll take another break. The network news will continue thereafter. Please stay with us.
The CEOs of tomorrow are already on ground. Nigeria's youth are active partners in nation building. Youths must strive to be heard. Youth is us the power to make choices. Powerful voices who see the world differently and process it with divergent views. Join us at the National Youth Conference in October 2021. All roads lead to Abuja. 3 whole days at the confirm. Youth delegates from the 36 states of Nigeria and the FCT, having conversations centered on youth inclusiveness, peace, security, governance, and employment. It is time for us to emerge. Let the youth decide. The National Youth Conference is made possible by the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development and private sector partners.
When you wake up in the morning, before you start your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time. For work and for play, for a great start to your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
We always start our day with a nourishing Kellogg's breakfast, powered with the goodness of grains and 11 essential vitamins and minerals.
Is available in 90 naira only, with 10% extra inside.
Hello, Paul. Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I have been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains remover. Harpic sticker formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergent and bleach.
Wow!
This na the tori of pikin wey rise to the max. Rain or shine, e no settle for less. Na the tori of small boy wey get big talent. Wait o, e be like say na the tori of one man wey fall, but wey bounce back in style.
Osime, wetin dey motivate you? I want dey big, special and great.
Watching us live from Big Brother House Studio.
Joy for Osime and his teammates and chuck for him as well.
Make we dey enjoy Max Entertainment together.
Sports or movies, telenovela or cartoon, music or reality TV. With just 6,900 naira, you sef fit get your GoTV decoder plus 1 month Max subscription. Make you dey enjoy over 75 channels wey dey for GoTV Max. Make you and your special ones dey enjoy better things on Max levels. GoTV, love it.
Iheanacho near post and scores.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria will look to continue their excellent start to the World Cup qualifiers when they take on Lefauve of Central African Republic. Will Lefauve pull off a shock on the home soil of the Super Eagles? It's Nigeria versus Central African Republic at the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Lagos, Nigeria on the 7th of October, showing on the network service of the NTA and AIT from 4:30 p.m. with live radio broadcast on Cool FM, Wazobia FM and Nigeria Info. You can also join online at sporty.com and NPFL TV. The FIFA World Cup qualifiers are proudly brought to you by BetNiger and supported by MTN, Coca-Cola and Dettol, proud sponsors of the Super Eagles.
Glad to have you back. Now time for business news. Benny, 5G means faster internet and more business opportunities, which translates to more money. Do you agree?
Yeah, I quite agree with that. You know business. Well, welcome to business. For more on that,
the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), Professor Umar Dambata, says Nigeria is 97% ready for deployment of the fifth-generation cellular network technology. MTN and Airtel are the two major operators that plan to secure a 5G spectrum license to deploy the technology. While MTN has already conducted a trial of the technology across its offices in the country, which was deemed successful, Airtel has also secured approval for trial. The Commission said it would assign 5 slots of the 5G spectrum. Around the capital markets, investors gained 246.79 billion naira as the all-share index appreciated by 1.18%. Market closed at 40,716.66 basis points, while equity capitalization is 21.2 trillion naira. 432.9 million shares valued at 3.1 billion naira exchanged hands in 4,377 deals. Market breadth closed positive as FBNH led 32 gainers as against 19 losers, topped by UPL. Just as Universal Insurance, FBNH, and Access were the most active to boost market turnover. Guarantee and Airtel Afrique topped market value list. That is business news. Nyeri, it's over to you.
Many thanks, Benny. Let's now talk education. The Federal Ministry of Education has commenced the pilot implementation of the increase in retirement age to 65 or 40 years of service for teachers and education officers. This came to light as Nigeria joins the globe to mark 2021 World Teachers' Day. Abdullahi Musa Suleja reports.
The impact of COVID-19 on the education sector and attendant challenges faced by teachers to ensure effective delivery of education to all learners around the world prompted the choice of this year's theme. Teachers at the heart of educational recovery. They were challenged to appreciate the new normal, embrace the use of technology, build capacities, creative and innovative to meet the new normal.
I assure you that implementation of most of the targets in the repositioning of teachers will be achieved by January 2022. However, I want you all to know that teachers' welfare is paramount in the scheme of things, and negotiations are ongoing to ensure that your salaries are prioritized.
Any major outbreak to disrupt the school calendar. That was a major success recorded by this administration. We therefore call on federal, state, and local government, as well as private individuals, to join hands and restore peace, order, and peaceful coexistence to ensure safety of our schools and the school community for the good of our country.
This year's celebration is the first anniversary of the renaissance of the Nigerian teacher after the presidential pronouncement to reposition and revitalize the teaching profession last year, hence making it a memorable one.
Congratulations.
As usual, teachers that did well in their domain were duly recognized. Abdullahi Musa Sleja, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs felicitates with Nigerian teachers on the occasion of the International Teachers' Day. A statement from the ministry quoted the minister saying they remember particularly teachers who lost their lives in their struggle to uphold the tenets of the noble profession during the crisis that ravaged parts of Nigeria as a result of insurgency, bandits, kidnapping, amongst others. It acknowledged the contribution of teachers to making the world better and reaffirmed the ministry's support to build safety nets that would enable women realize their potential and contribute maximally to nation building. To other issues now, stakeholders in the road sector have urged members of the public to disregard the myths associated with Ember Moors as road traffic accident-prone period of the year, rather a period of utmost caution. This came to the fore at the Ember Moors campaign flag-off organized by Federal Road Safety Corps Osun State Sector Command. Bolaji Akim reports.
The last 4 months of the year is associated with increased carnage on Nigerian roads. The myth has been severally disproved by road traffic enforcement agencies, including the FRSC, as mere speculation, but human factor from high level of vehicular movement and impatience to total disregard for road traffic regulations.
A lot of people are not patient when they drive because everyone is in a hurry at that period.
Governor Boyega Oyetola, while flagging off the Ember Months campaign, urged motorists to see the period as every other month of the year.
While our road officers must ensure observance of rules, all motorists must desist from engaging in any activity that could endanger lives.
This year, Ember Month campaign will incorporate religious and community leaders to ensure drastic reduction in road crashes. From Ile-Ife in Osun State, Bolaji Akim, NTA News.
Let's take a quick break. Please stay.
At 61, how far has Nigeria fared in its developmental strides, along with the challenges of nationhood? That's our focus on NTA Tuesday Alive this week, with the 61st Independence celebration still in the air. Tuesday Alive, every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. It promises to be incisive and educative. Join us.
With immense gratitude to Almighty God for a life of impact, the Foursquare Gospel Church announced the final home call of its former General Overseer, Dr. Wilson Badijo, who joined the Saints triumphant on Saturday, August 7th, 2021, at age 74. The final burial ceremony kicks off with a special evening of tributes, which holds on Wednesday, October 6th, 2021, 5 p.m. at the Foursquare Gospel Church, National Headquarters, 6266 Akimwumi Street, Alagomeji, Yaba. A wake keep will hold on Thursday, October 7th, 5 p.m. at the Foursquare Gospel Church. The funeral service will hold on Friday, October 8th, 10 a.m. at the Jelili Omotola Multipurpose Hall, University of Lagos, Akoka, Yaba. All these events will be transmitted live on Foursquare TV, all Foursquare digital platforms, and WAP TV. Reverend Wilson Badijo is survived by his wife, Reverend Mrs. Olanyinka Badijo, children, grandchildren, and relatives. May his beloved soul find rest in the bosom of the Lord. Foursquare Gospel Church, announcer.
Iheanacho near post and scores.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria will look to continue their excellent start to the World Cup qualifiers when they take on Lefauve of Central African Republic. Will Lefauve pull off a shock on the home soil of the Super Eagles? It's Nigeria versus Central African Republic at the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Lagos, Nigeria on the 7th of October, showing on the network service of the NTA and AIT from 4:30 p.m. with live radio broadcast on Cool FM, Wazobia FM and Nigeria Info. You can also join online at sporting.com and NPFL TV. The FIFA World Cup qualifiers are proudly brought to you by BetNiger and supported by MTN, Coca-Cola and Dettol, proud sponsors of the Super Eagles.
Let's have a bit of sports now with Badi Adeleye.
Many thanks, Yara. Nigeria's Super Eagles at their first training session on Tuesday evening at the Teslim Balogun Stadium, Lagos, ahead of Thursday's 2022 World Cup qualifier against the Wild Beast of Central African Republic. The training session, which had 22 players, lasted about an hour, with Coach Genotro and assistant Joseph Yobo putting the players through their paces. Sparta Rotterdam of Holland goalkeeper Maduka Okoye is the only player yet to arrive the team's camp. Moving on, despite making a missed meet of Central African Republic in the first leg of their 2022 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifier, Nigeria's Under-20 team, the Falconets, say they will not be carried away by the 7-0 mauling of their opponents when they face off in the second leg at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena, Lagos, on Wednesday.
We are not coming to approach the match as if it was scored 7 already. We're coming to that match as if it's the match that gets us to qualify.
We promise to put smiles on every Nigerian faces and to make every Nigerian proud out there.
All is now set for the football final of the 2021 Southwest Games, built from Wednesday at the Remo Star Sports Complex, Ikene, Ogun State. The final encounter between Yabatek and Ibadan Polytechnic will be preceded by the third-place match between Laspotek and Saki. 12 sports have been featured at the Ogun 2021 Games, with participants drawn from tertiary institutions and security agencies in the southwestern part of the country. And that does it on sports. It's back to the area.
Many thanks, Buddy. Before we go, let's take a quick peep at the weather outlook for Wednesday.
Welcome to Wednesday's weather forecast. The satellite picture shows active weather systems over some parts of the central cities and most parts of the southern region. However, there's some developing systems coupled with the wind trajectory that are expected to give early morning thunderstorms to parts of Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, parts of Kebbi and Bayelsa, leaving other parts in cloudy with sunny skies over the north. Going into the afternoon and evening hours, we expect a decent chance of thunderstorms over the southern states, as well as most parts of the central region, including parts of Yelwa, southern Kaduna, Bauchi, Gombe, parts of Taraba, Adamawa, and southern Borno. I am Theodora Itu. Thank you for watching.
And that concludes Network News tonight. Many thanks for watching. Please remember, there is no excuse for rape. Speak up and take action. I'm Ian Ray John. Good night.
It took me 9 years, 4 months. But they put the place before I can get the license. Because they were obstacle. They never want private buses to see that of the day. So that they can continue to control like government.
NTA, you can't beat the reach.
Hello and welcome to Strictly Speaking. We're looking at the English language, the way we write, the way we speak, and the words we choose.
We have to come to the realization that we need help. A lot of people, or a lot of my clients who come to me, don't even want to be seen with me.
But it's not a failing. That's what people don't seem to get.
Speak the right words. Think the right thoughts, because the good book says, as a man thinketh, so is he.
If you look at the African language, it is tonal. So many of our languages are tonal.
Absolutely.
And you hear it when the people talk.
This is the network service of the NTA.
We've been trying our best to contain
maintain the situation. In our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities. And we've been able to also recover, particularly arms and ammunition, from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The League of Women Voters of Nigeria, NILOV, is an all-female NGO of women uplifting other women. NILOV, founded by Dr. Dame Esther Aduehi, is a non-political and non-partisan organization whose aim is to empower women economically and politically for a more perfect democracy. Some of our dedicated members passionate about the education of the girl child and empowerment of women include former Minister of Industries, Chief Mrs. Nike Akonde, first female MD, Bank of Industry, Ms. Evelyn Oputu, former two-time Minister and Ambassador Dr. Kema Chikwe, Hajia Ina Chiroma, former Ministers of Women's Affairs, Senator Stella Omu and Iyom Joseph Aneni, Senator Daisy Danjuma, former Permanent Secretary and Head of the Service, Ms. Ama Pepple. Let's join these distinguished women and others like Senator Biodun Olujimi, Senator Uche Ekonife, Right Honorable Felicia Bassi, Honorable Chinwe Mornu, Dr. Rosalind Okosu, Dr. Regina Omog Agege, and others. NILOV, women lifting other women. NILOV, together we can.
Near post and scores.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria will look to continue their excellent start to the World Cup qualifiers when they take on Lefauve of Central African Republic. Will Lefauve pull off a shock on the home soil of the Super Eagles? It's Nigeria versus Central African Republic at the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Lagos, Nigeria on the 7th of October, showing on the network service of the NTA and AIT from 4:30 p.m. with live radio broadcast on Cool FM, Wazobia FM and Nigeria Info. You can also join online at sporty.com and NPFL TV. The FIFA World Cup qualifiers are proudly brought to you by BetNiger and supported by MTN, Coca-Cola and Dettol, proud sponsors of the Super.
Shaking off the blows of a pandemic that brought many giant economies to their knees, Africa's biggest economy, Nigeria, has its economic trajectories looking up. This did not happen out of the blues, but a result of a mixture of condiments to bolster the economy. Making the investment environment friendly topped the menu of the priorities of the federal government. Consequently, bold moves were made to multiply the quantum of power supplied to the national grid. 3 inherited hydro dam projects were completed: Kashimbila, Dadinkowa, and Gurara, with the Zungero Dam taking shape. 22 substations were constructed under the National Integrated Power Project (NIPP). It was to boost the supply of electricity while checking the challenge of low voltage. The power sector recovery program has also commenced the upgrade of obsolete transmission infrastructure across the country, making more transformers available for sustained power transmission.
NEMSA has come up with what we call enforcement of the national low voltage system level. Before now, you'll be hearing 415 volts, but actually what the regulation says is that our national voltage in Nigeria is 400 volts. So when you are bringing a transformer, you are bringing equipment, apart from being a special type use, it must conform with that standard. The circular has been issued, and many transformer assembling facilities in Nigeria, they have brought their facility, they have brought their transformer to us, that look, we have produced this number. Because you know, when you bring in a new order, you don't then discard everything that is existing. All you need to do, you allow those ones to go in while you are bringing actually the correct one of the 415, pending when they utilize all those other ones. They work together, pari passu, and serve the system. We've done that particular one, and it takes effect July this year, 2021. But the point is that we have actually asked all those who have imported transformers before now that are 415 volt type, that they should bring up their transformer stock so that we can see them. Take documentation. There is a manufacturing factory in Calabar who has actually brought all his own. We've actually taken stock what he has. So outside those stocks, he can no longer produce 415. He start producing 400 volt.
Heartwarming was the implementation of the federal government's Siemens deal for infrastructural realignment under the Presidential Power Initiative. Putting smiles on the faces of the electricity consumers is the move to end estimated billing through the National Mass Metering Program, where millions of consumers were metered. Boosting the confidence of critical stakeholders in the sector was the appointment of a new minister who is eager to speed up activities in the power sector.
What I have in mind is to look at ways to work with the GENCOs, the DISCOs, and the transmission company of Nigeria. That is the value chain, from the upstream to the downstream. So it's to have incremental power. You can only do that if you are able to increase from generation, then the capacity of the conveyor, which is the TCN, and to ginger the discourse to be able to receive what has been transmitted to them to distribute. Then look at other areas, other sources where you can generate the energy.
Diversifying the sources of energy, the federal government began to harness the potential of the sun. And this has lit up millions of homes of the underserved and unserved.
So one of the things you find with the alternative sources of power, especially solar, is that they are clean and reliable. Given that the country itself has signed on to the global standards for universal access and clean energy, this is a very, very good source of reliable and clean power.
With an appreciable level in power supply, manufacturing is accelerated and mass movement of goods becomes critical. The 25-year strategic master plan of the Nigerian railway sector was activated, and once again, the sleeping railway tracks wake from their slumber. President Muhammadu Buhari was handy in giving the green light for Nigeria's first standard gauge railway to commence operation from Kaduna, Abuja, and a connect to the Anambra International Airport. With the euphoria of the Kaduna-Abuja rail line still in the air, the 326-kilometer Itakpe-Warrior-Jaokuta rail line was delivered. 12 modern stations coordinating the rail service. A corridor for steel rolling and iron ore mining connected to the Warri port. 312-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge double-track rail line was a game changer. It has 11 state-of-the-art stations, opening up communities, linking up produce with markets, and commuters with their homes and businesses.
Whatever you want to say about the president, you cannot deny the fact that he believes that infrastructure is the basis for development. And while he has not abandoned the old projects he inherited, he has put a lot of passion in the new projects also that he has instituted. But a lot has to be said also for the minister. I think the minister's passion that almost bordered at times on frenziness saw this project through. The minister was not only passionate about this project, it was as if it was his life. And you could see him hands-on, almost on a weekly basis, working with the contractors, insisting on timelines, refusing delays. Even when the project was challenged during COVID-19, I was with him. When he told them, look, we are not going to abandon this because of COVID-19. If instead of 100 people, then let there be 10 people. So honestly, we must also commend the Honorable Minister of Transportation for his doggedness, for his stubbornness, for his passion. His passion almost became an obsession. But for that, we'll not be where we are today. And finally speaking, I look at this iconic hall, and you can be anywhere in the world.
Now, the cornerstones for the Lagos Kano and Maradi in Republic of Niger has been cemented. This is set to gulp $1.9 billion, making Nigeria a regional transportation hub, especially with the signing and coming into effect the African Free Trade Agreement.
No, I like the question because we're having a battle with the contractor. He's asking for a minimum of 2. The contract says 3 years. He's asking for a minimum of 24 months to finish. We are saying no, 18 months. Well, see, yeah, 24 months will terminate. 24 months will terminate in December. I mean, in June next year, 2023. And we say no, we must finish it in December 2022 so that we can commission.
While stepping up efforts to revive the Eastern Rail lines, the Port Harcourt to Maiduguri tracks is being reconstructed. Plans are also on the way to link Nigeria with Chad Republic through Kauranamoda and Cameroon through the branch line in Yola, Adamawa State.
We are even go to the extent that when you have your ATM, you don't need to buy a ticket. The system will put in place that from your ATM, where your what they call it now, the wireless type you pass, you will just deduct the money without talking to anybody. And that is the type we want. Because if you know, we are looking at tomorrow, not just today.
Where the railways starts and ends are federal highways spanning 35,000 kilometers. With many rehabilitation and reconstruction sites inactive as of 2015. The federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, therefore unlocked series of funding options which ignited the machines and activates the continuation of rehabilitation and reconstruction of a number of critical highways.
When this administration in 2015-2016 started what I will probably call the infrastructure revolution, I think we all know how the situation was. We can look back to see that yes, it has been good. First of all, a lot of initiatives were brought to bear in terms of creating the funding to ensure that the sector is adequately funded. Beyond the budgetary provision, a lot of funding windows were opened.
The second Niger Bridge, which was in the Keep in View files, got a lifeline and its completion in sight. Other critical bridges like the Loko Oweto Bridge, which shortens the journey from the north to the eastern part of Nigeria, also came through the pipeline and on the verge of completion.
The Loko Oweto is supposed to shorten the distance from the southeast to the federal capital by more than 3 hours, and also expand access into the FCT and reduce traffic overload in the Eastern Economic Corridor. The bridge is 100% completed. It's the access road that have just been approved and awarded by the Federal Executive Council. So that too will also open up access through Nasarawa, Kefi, Nasarawa State down to Benue and then down to the southeast, which will also open another window of access into the market and the movement of goods and services from the southeast to the north central up into the hinterland.
The construction of Bodo Boni Bridge has also progressed.
When this project started, there was no way to be here. We flew, the Vice President, who came to flag it up on behalf of the President, flew from Port Harcourt to Bonny Island, so that we can stand here now on farmland, even though the project is not finished. It's truly historic. Let me start by thanking the President for approving and leading the Federal Executive Council to approve the construction of this road. And there are many people to thank, but I think it's appropriate to start there for many reasons. This was the land, we're in Ogoni land for those who can come here. So this is one of the places where a lot of oil has been extracted for many decades. But many of those who did it did not think it fit to make this kind of investment. So it's fitting that a Nigerian president is leading the charge to connect these two islands for the first time in centuries. And that's why I say it's very, very historic. What is historic about it also is that it just connects me to 50 years back, for me personally, because I used to read and learn in primary school history about King Jaja of Opobo. This is his land. This is the Opobo Creek. This was where that great man came from. So just to be able to come here now and stand, and as I was driving through, I just wondered how they survived. So driving through 30-something kilometers in the final analysis when this road is finished, and how they did this by canoe. And all the people who once ruled this land over a century and more, many centuries ago, one must truly salute their courage, their determination to find fame in such adversity. And this is mangrove swamp, really, if you took photographs of it. And again, as I said, there are many people to thank. In our government, one must recognize and acknowledge the role that Governor Rotimi Amechi has played in driving and supporting this project every time we go to Federal Executive Council. And I want to also formally place on record the role that Senator Magnus Abbey played. He was the one who first brought me here, I think in 2017. He heard that I was visiting Rivers and said, let me go and show you something. So he came to show me the last attempt to build this project. And those are the abandoned bridges you saw at the beginning on Bodo Island. And so, when you realize that this project has been in the making since around the 1980s, this is like the fourth attempt, and this is now the most successful attempt, because we now have a successful bridge over Afa Creek. We are standing at the beginning of the construction of the building of bridge over Opobo Creek, and the next one is Nanabie.
Ecom Bridge and the From Ekok Bridge, a strategic link to Cameroon and a gateway for vessels from the Calabar port, are awaiting the presidential nod to open up to traffic. These highways are already making journeys more comfortable, with a number of them leading to Nigeria's gateway to the international arena, the airports. Here is where the world receives a warm welcome in a world-class setting. The Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Abuja has a new international terminal with state-of-the-art passenger processing equipment. The runway at the airport has a special place facilitating a safe takeoff and landing. The Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Abuja runway now stands taller than its peers, owing to its rehabilitation. So also that of Akano Ibiam Enugu International Airport. In Port Harcourt, the River State capital, a new terminal at the international airport leaves passengers with an amazing story to take to the world stage.
Well, I've just arrived. It's very nice. It's clean. It's bright. It's big. And I've only been here a couple of minutes. I don't really know yet. But it looks very nice. I'm keen to see when I leave to see what the duty-free looks like. Yeah.
It's really amusing. It's really amusing. Then it's quite different from what I used to see when I go to N'Djamena before, because I usually travel from Abuja to N'Djamena. It's fantastic.
Oh, it's just nice, very nice. I see differences before the first time I travel. It's not the same. This one is perfect.
These applies to Lagos and Kano International Airports, where new terminals are about to be completed.
Primarily, we are more concerned as aviators with safety and security of our industry. How very safe you depart point A and arrive at point B, and securely for that matter. All of those things that happen from the departure to arrival and in between is our concern, including obviously, of course, after arrival until the passenger gets out of our premises. Now, some of these things are not things that you see with naked eye by the passenger. For example, nobody knows whether we put in an instrument landing system that will guide an airplane to land at the center line and at the threshold of a runway for safety and efficiency of air transportation. So, but having said this, I think I would perhaps take it, and very briefly too, to discuss some of the policies we put in place and some of the works that we have done. I remember when we came in, the industry, as it were, at the time, was experiencing lots of difficulties and hardship, including some foreign airlines not able to repatriate their foreign currency that they earned in Nigeria in accordance with the Air Services Agreement. Nigeria was holding money in excess of $600 million. Till date, we're not owing any airline. And in terms of security, for example, we're able to be alert, and we increased and raised the score in the ICAO audit to about 96.7%, which is, of course, near perfect, near 100. These and many more are things that we have done modestly to begin to put things the way they should be. You also remember that at some point we had a reason and a cause shut down the only runway we have in Abuja. Of course, I was attacked primarily by you gentlemen of the media, and that is wrong. It will impact on the economy negatively and so on and so forth. And I was in National Assembly, in the Senate in particular, 3 times to defend it, and I had a tough time trying to force it down the throat of Nigerian public. And this is simply because they don't understand the safety implications involved in that runway. Once in aviation, different from, say, medicine, if a doctor makes one mistake in one operation, he kills one patient and he remains alive. If a pilot makes one mistake in one operation, he kills 500 people plus himself. So it's a very serious business. We cannot afford to fold our arms and sit down and look when we have a facility like the runway, which is very critical to smooth operations and safety operations, dilapidated to that level without doing something. So we set out, we set a target, we said we'll do it in 6 weeks. We defended it, and we were able to deliver a day before the deadline of 6 weeks. And what is more important is during those very odd 6 weeks, we ensured that we provided alternative for passengers into Kaduna Airport, which is about 200 kilometers away from here. We provided rail, buses, helicopters, and throughout those six weeks, there was no single incident in the movement of passengers that we did in millions between the 2 cities.
The federal government also spread the dividend of democracy to millions of ordinary Nigerians as well as the elites. This was in its commitment to providing housing. Public-private partnerships arrangement with the Federal Housing Authority has led to the construction of tens of thousands of homes across the country, with the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, keeping his eyes on the pace and quality of the buildings.
There are many people in the housing economy who want different things, who have different needs, and they can't all be served by one specific person. Some want high-end apartments like this. They don't want to build by themselves. They want somebody who can do it. That is where Cause Group comes in. There are people who also just want land, and they want to build their land. The story is that these housing challenges are being tackled on multiple fronts.
Apart from making the environment friendly for the private sector to also provide affordable homes, the Ministry of Works and Housing undertakes direct construction of housing projects across the 36 states of the Federation, with majority completed. At 6-1, Nigeria has continued to break new grounds in its quest to be counted among the nations to be reckoned with.
This week on Executive Discuss.
It took me 9 years, 4 months. But they put the place before I can get the license. Because they were obstacle. They never want private buses to see night of the day, so that they can continue to control like government.
Hello, and welcome to Strictly Speaking. We're looking at the English language, the way we write, the way we speak, and the words we choose.
We have to come to the realization that we need help. A lot of people, or a lot of my clients who come to me, don't even want to be seen with me.
But it's not a failing. That's what people don't seem to get.
Speak the right words. Think the right thoughts, because the good book says, as a man thinketh, so is he.
If you look at the African language, it is...
This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stover. The political journey of Nigeria from colonial administration to self-rule has consistently reflected on diverse ideologies and ideas for attaining the state of nationhood and achieving even development across the length and breadth of an independent nation that was under prolonged British occupation and control. Now, more than 6 decades after, the unfolding developments have been mild, tough, and sometimes unpredictable in the determination of who gets what, when, and how, with diverse interests working towards economic and political stability as well as social transformation at all levels of government. Now, Nigeria may have had its sad days, which broke bonds, interfered with genuine processes to nationhood, but the gains of post-colonial leadership from military to civil rule are thought to surpass the dark ages. Now, as a developing nation, 61 years of independence certainly challenges likely to manifest, but how the nation rises to these setbacks distinguishes it from its contemporaries and projects its image to the rest of the world. Tonight, Tuesday Live will focus on 61 years of independence and developmental strides as well as challenges. But first, let's get to see this report by Timothy Yusuf.
Nigeria was 61 years old on the 1st of October 2021. Still basking in the euphoria of the celebration, those who know say it has been a journey of multi-ethnic nationalities, different religious groups and dynamic political system under one united country, Nigeria.
Nigeria has made so many significant impacts, all over the world within the Committee of Nations, and back home here there are significant achievements despite the challenges on the journey to nationhood.
Findings show that the country is blessed with abundance of human and natural resources, with oil and agriculture driving the economy mostly. Mineral resources also abound across the country, thereby making Nigeria a giant among the Committee of Nations.
In spite of the challenges that we have in the country, there are so many efforts that is being done, not only by the federal government, but at the sub-nationals, to address some of these issues. Yes, we're expecting too much within a short time, and also within a period that we have forgotten where we are coming from.
Going down memory lane politically, analysts recall that the merger of the Southern and Northern Protectorates in 1914 by the British colonial government gave birth to Nigeria, but that it took patriotic and passionate struggle from the people and their leaders for the country to gain independence on the 1st of October 1960, with Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa emerging as the first Prime Minister of Nigeria. Nigeria, however, marked total independence from Britain when it became a republic on the 1st of October 1963, with Nnamdi Azikiwe as its first president. Political unrest, however, led to a series of military coups in 1966. The country was therefore ruled by the military, with democratic rule not in place until October 1st, 1979. Another military incursion in 1983 abruptly terminated the civilian administration in the country. Democracy was again restored in 1999. Of course, it has been an uninterrupted democratic government in place since then.
What has been happening in our country, particularly in that period of time, is not something you can gloss over.
This is probably the time we should be concerned about rapprochement, about peace building.
We have regional interests playing out. We have ethnic interests playing out.
Describing the nation's journey so far, analysts say over the past 61 years, bad governance paved the way for economic hardship, which experts attributed to present insecurity ranging from banditry, kidnapping, insurgency, and ethno-religious tension in the country.
The inability of the political class
to engage the traditional institution is the reason why we still have so much crisis in the land.
But I believe that it is the weight of development in multi-sectoral dimension that has created that weight and is appearing that we've made gains and we've lost some of the gains. But I believe that under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, as we are going to pursue, overtake, and recover all as a country.
Amidst the challenges, the good news, however, is that Nigeria still remained an indivisible entity after 61 years.
We should also rise above hate, rise above ethnocentrism, rise above regionalism, and all, to become one people, one nation, one people, one destiny.
In all, a cross-section of citizens believe that with patriotism, unity, and strength in diversity, Nigeria can overcome her challenges. Timothy Yusuf.
Right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests. We'd like to welcome Professor Ken Ife, a development economist. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Right. We're also joined by Dr. Kayode Ajulo. He is a legal practitioner. Thanks for being here.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. And we have joining us from our Kaduna Network Center is Professor Kabir Matu, a political scientist. Professor Kabir Matu, good to see you. Is Professor All right. Let's also welcome to this program a former Minister of Education and a former Commissioner for Agriculture in Ogun State, as well as a former coordinator Women in Nigeria. Let's welcome Senator Yabo Adnishilo, who joins us via Zoom from Ibadan. It's good to see you again. Right. Okay, so we always acquaint you with the process of this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The numbers will be on your screen, but that's when it comes up. And we like to remind you that when it's that time and you get through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set so we can avoid the hurlback or the echo. And when that time comes, when you have to ask a question or make a comment, just go straight to the point and don't bother about greetings. So welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Tonight it's all about 61 years of Nigerian independence, the strides and the challenges. Let's start with Professor Ken Ife. 61 years. How would you describe Nigeria these past years?
Well, I can say that Nigeria it amazes me with the resilience of this country. That we have a litany of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But resilience is a big word that describes how we have managed to walk our way for 61 years. But it also makes me more confident about our economic and political future, that we could do this, neither or that storm.
Okay. What are your comments, Dr. Kayode Ajulo? 61 years.
Well, I agree with the professor. One thing that's so clear is about the tenacity of Nigeria to ensure that things are done, no matter whatever the situation we find ourselves. And one thing again is the unity itself. You know that this is a fabric that is being overstretched most of the time. For the past 61 years, I remember sometimes we go through the papers, through the archive, you notice at one point or another, this issue of disunity, unity always seemed to be the recurrence decimal. But one thing that is so clear, despite the hues and cry, Nigeria still remains one. And I think that is one thing that you cannot take away from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And again, that one means that one needs to salute the leaders, the security agencies, and even Nigerians, because no matter what it is, through the dialogues, through the stripes, through the fighting, through all that, we still remain one. And I think that is one thing you can take away.
Okay. Let's go over to our Kaduna Network Center, and it's the same question we'll put to Professor Kabir Matu. This country called Nigeria has had 61 years of independence. How would you describe it?
Well, I'm not surprised. I think the 61 years have been not as traumatizing as a lot of us will like to look at it. I see the last 61 years as basically, continuation and culmination of a drive to nationhood, which, of course, characterizes the very heterogeneous nature of the Nigerian society. So the issue that people talk about unity, disunity, and all sorts of conflagration in relation to the relative stability politically that we are experiencing in the country today, in my view, is what should be expected of such a very big giant. A nation now of over 200 million people with very many ethnic nationalities, above all, with a very peculiar, character of an elite class, in the last 61 years, apparently, and especially in contemporary times, has failed, to understand the mission of which it naturally ought to discover in order to reduce the stresses and tensions that Nigeria as a nation has faced, especially in the last 20 years since we started this democratic dispensation. But in summary, I do not expect that anything short of what we are getting today would have been the answer in view of the various, like I said, heterogeneity that the nation is made of, blessed with also a character of, some form of elitism that, in my view, is more, self-centered, and more interested in perhaps not the pursuit of even class interest, but personal, aggrandizement and selfish interest, etc., against the teeming population of this country that, of course, as Plato will say, rely on the philosopher, the king. That's the elite class that should have ordinarily led the people out of the woods. Instead, it's been, a tension and confusion arising from what, Okodibanoli will refer to as cutthroat competition of the various elites, from the various segments of the nation, for the control of the scarce resources of Nigeria. I think we have done very well in the last 61 years. What we see, in my view, represents, what Bala Usman will call the national question. And the national question will never have any national answer. As you address one problem, another one rears its ugly head. So the last 61 years...
Well, that's good, because we'll go into those questions that you say will perhaps not get a national answer. But it's good to hear your opening comments about what you think Nigeria is after 61 years of independence. Well, let's go over to Senator Iyabo Anishulo, who's joining us via Zoom from Ibadan. Well, Senator, we would like to go down memory lane with you. You were there at independence, and you participated in the very first march past on the attainment of independence in 1960. As you reflect on that and what Nigeria has become today, what would you say?
Well, my comment has to border on the situation we are now, because in 1960, when we had independence, it was very good, very nice. We were anticipating very good government, and the younger ones were encouraged that we will do well in life, be educated, will have good work to do, jobs to do, and the men will be real men, and the women too will be real women to build the nation together. And that was the feelings we had, and it was very good. I mean, from 1960 to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, when things started to fall apart economically. After the oil boom, and we had good spending on different developmental projects, but the issue when corruption crept into the system, it became very, very bad. It became bad. Then later on, as we move on, became very, very, very uninteresting for those who are young, coming behind us, because now we have a lot of unemployment. The unemployment rate is very high, and the systems have not been built to actually give succor to the people in the country. So although we need to really thank God for all that we have been able to do in this country, because we have not, apart from the war we had in 1966, 66, 67, 68. The effect of the war has really changed relationship in the system, and so I feel that we have seen the good, we have seen the good, we have seen the bad, and the ugly that is rearing its face in the country is the issue of insecurity that is ravaging the country right now.
Okay.
And mothers, we are really reflecting and feeling that what will the future be for the upcoming Nigerians.
All right.
So I will say we had good times when we were young, when we were growing up, yes. But when we became adults, we had these terrible things happening around us, and the basic issue is the corruption that has been transported in.
Well, thank you so much, taking us down memory lane, and I can imagine how you must have felt being part of that march past some 61 years ago. Yes, there have been challenges through the years, and now Nigeria faces numerous other issues. So let's look at them. And sometimes it gets very difficult to determine where you start. Is it the economy? Is it on the political front? Or let's try the economy, for instance, and say, how has it been? 61 years after independence, we're looking at a country with an economy that Nigerian citizens can be proud of.
Very challenging indeed. Well, if you look, our population then at independence was around 45 million people. And now we've grown 5 times more, about 218 million people. But certain things have not grown in that proportion. For example, infrastructure. Our infrastructure has hardly doubled. In fact, our stock of infrastructure is 35% of our GDP. South Africa is 80% of their GDP. And many countries are more than 100% of their GDP. So that even gives you an idea. Because the reason I had to start with infrastructure is that infrastructure is what you require to drive the diversification agenda. There's no area that you don't have particular type of infrastructure. In petroleum and gas, you have infrastructure that they require. In agriculture, you have special infrastructure which is called quality infrastructure for it to be able to get out of the country. And every telecommunication, you need broadband, you need all these. So every sector of the economy requires particular type of infrastructure. You need power. Power is infrastructure that drives all industries. You have dams, over 300 dams. How many of them are being used to generate power? How many of them are being used by the 12 river basins to produce food and irrigation or water supply, metropolitan water supply, or even aquaculture? So there are gaps, significant gaps in that infrastructure. And that's, you had the president, you had the CBN governor saying we need $100 billion every year on infrastructure, at least for the next 30 years. So that gives you an idea of the huge gap, and the rest of the economy is struggling. If you take the most obvious one, which is agriculture, what we inherited from the colonies was a structure that wanted us to continue to produce commodity and send it to them to process so that we can consume. So that and then they responded, our pioneers responded by building settlements, farm settlements, to do cocoa and all that. They responded. But they weren't focused at that moment to say, why don't we progressively add value to this so that we can get a fair share of this in the global. It wasn't their priority. They did build industries. Our built industries, you had Ikeja industries in Ikeja, and the Western region had a head start, many decades before the Eastern region came in. Eastern region was the last to come in. And when the Eastern region came, they had industrial estates in Transamadi. You have in Aba, you have markets, a major market, regional market in Onitsha. In Kaduna, you have Kanu, you have industrial bases there. But the focus of these industries were not to process our raw agricultural commodity. They were to focus on all other industries. That's why you have a lot of, you have iron and steel, you have motor manufacture of different cars, and then you have tire, Dutola was doing tires, and all of that. So they were focusing, and then you have iron and steel in Enugu. So all of them were focusing on them, but they were not focusing on our natural economy, which is not a bad idea though. But then after the Civil War, the National Development Plan, which was the second one, was focused on 3R, reconstruction, rehabilitation, and reconciliation. Everybody came together after that troubled time to work on that national agenda, and we generated 10.2% growth rate, the highest ever in our country. So it tells you one thing, that when we come together under a purposeful development plan that engages people, will produce outstanding results.
Okay.
But it hasn't, that hasn't been followed through.
All right, Dr. Ajulo, yes, we can say at the start, all the leaders we are focused on was to get independence, get the country up and running. But as he just said, not add value to those resources that we're taking out. But the argument would be 61 years later, what's wrong? If you did that for the first 5 years, perhaps, we should have learned to do it better.
Well, that is where the problems start from, and I want to say that's where the rain started beating us. Because if you know, it seems that most of the superpower we have, then that's the leader. The essence is to take power from the colonial masters. I want to believe, and it seemed that they seem to be more specialized in that. But when it comes to the real governance, and that's why, you know, within the first 5 months or 5 years, we have the issue of coup. From coup, you can know what happened. Then we have war and all that. But one of the main issue where we had is this issue of corruption, and we need not to deceive ourselves. I do say this, it's quite unfortunate. Corruption can germinate, can take place virtually everywhere. Even sometimes by the time you look at the deep, interrogate the corruption itself, you find out that it is more of an innate thing in everyone. It is more like human right. But what distinguishes it corruption from one point to another is the essence of how it's being regulated. It's the essence of how, where you have the institution to ensure that people, your conduct are regulated. Unfortunately, we seem not to have that, and that is one of the basic issue. In a Senate line, not that when you put off the light, you see some people misbehave, but in a situation that the light is there, and anytime you misbehave, there will be, the law is there, the law enforcement agencies is there for you to be disciplined. Unfortunately, that seems to be what we are bereft of today, and that is why we seem to have all this issue. Yes, everybody seems to have an idea of how a country should be. The Prof mentioned the issue of infrastructure. Prof mentioned that as at the time when we seem to come together, Nigerians seem to be running well. But forgetting that as at that time, there is some semblance of check and balances. We are just out of the war. You can see what happened. And I remember that time, that's when you see, I remember, though I may be young, but some of us will read the papers. That's when now the armed robbers, people are dealt with. That's why we have all this. You can see it then, things working. But unfortunately, in a situation, no matter how you are, even if you're a saint, you notice that whatsoever your action will not be regulated, your action will not be checked, there's no check and balances. There is always that space for misbehavior. And I think that is where we are. As long as our institution cannot fit it right, we still continue to have this issue. And that is where we are.
Professor Kabir Mato, let's come to you. 61 years, but most of it. Some would argue that most of those 61 years have been bedeviled by governance issues. Would you agree with that?
Well, that's true, and that's typical of every human society, especially dependent peripheral capitalist system like the one we inherited from British colonial masters. I don't like to overlabel the theoretical postulation that our leaders at the point of independence were more interested in winning political power rather than the development of their respective regions and the nation at large. I think that's a theory that has been so over-debated in our universities and so on and so forth. I think if we want to look at the nature and structure of the Nigerian problem, we must situate it within the presumed of the very nature of colonial education, which unfortunately was not tilted, was not changed after independence. What was the purpose? What was the focus? Merely to produce literate Nigerians that could serve in one way as middlemen and that could do simple arithmetic and calculations and interpreters to the colonial administrators. So the essence of education in building the mind and souls of citizens was not actually entrenched as part of the colonial legacy of our education. And so it was not surprising that up to this moment, our educational system has not radically changed from that. We were somewhere, lost midstream. Attempting to leave or left the colonial legacy and unable to actually identify and pin down the very character and characteristics of the educational system that is indigenous to our communities and that will lead to the transformation and development of our society. That's one fundamental aspect of it. And of course, the issue of governance, like I said, is a continuous process from colonial struggle for independence up to the First Republic and then the military incursion into the body politics of this country and our attempt at democratization. Have not all, if you put together, I will not say we are not successful in totality, but a lot of problems, have arisen, arising from political instability and, so many other governance, issues that have faced us as a nation. Let me give you an example. And the tragedy of the entire situation is when we place the nature of governance in this country today against the backdrop of where we are coming from soon after colonial period and after independence, you will realize that there is a serious denudation on the quality, not of leadership per se, but even, the ethics and what governance should be all about. For instance, you take respect for political authority or, the courage of political parties in the First Republic, you'll find that it's similar with what was obtained in the Second Republic. And what we have today basically, is a caricature of what political party system ordinarily should look like. The discipline, the focus. I mean, if you take our political parties today and you talk about the issue of manifestos and cardinal principles and objectives of these political parties, you will find that you put it in comparison with what was obtained even between 1979 and 1983, you'll find that what we have today is, it's nothing to write home about. So I think in as much as the governance issues have so far predominated our life. And of course, you see, the centrality of governance and in economics, as well as the centrality of economics in governance, are two dialectical issues that you cannot separate one from the other. Perhaps it is the failure of governance, as far as successive administrations in this country are concerned, that have resulted in these economic doldrums that we find ourselves in today in Nigeria. And I think if we want to, be honest and take a look at this situation with a view, perhaps to providing solutions that will take us out of the woods, we must not, try to put in isolation, the issue of governance on one hand, and then the economic crisis that we are facing on the other hand. I share the thought also that corruption is a fundamental issue. It is the backbone, of perhaps all the misdemeanors that we see happening in our community. Professor Sam Aluko used to, try to define or categorize corruption into two major distinctions: benevolent corruption and corruption that is not benevolent. But in our own case, it is so tragic that we do not even, have the sympathy of undertaking benevolent corruption, but we will rather go for the destructive corruption, which in my view is responsible. Have the sympathy of course, what's happening today. Corruption, but we will rather go for the destructive corruption, which in my view is responsible.
Right, well, two of you have now spoken about corruption, been at the center of most of Nigeria's troubles. Dr. Kayode Ajulo, and you have also underlined that as one of the biggest issues. But you've also pointed to education not being tailored for the kind of development Nigeria would have required at independence. And that takes me to Senator Anishulo, who was at the time Minister of Education. Do you agree that Nigeria has not really tailored its education towards developing the kind of society that is required, and has just been repeating the same steps that the colonialists, established here in order to just have literate Nigerians and nothing more than that?
Not really, because the system of education that we inherited from the colonial masters, the system was good, and we're building on the system until politics came into it. What has actually ruined the educational system here is the politics of education. And we went beyond just giving education to our kings and our people. We went into, demolishing the system. The system, the institutions here has not been built to support itself for the future. And as the population increases, the facilities were expanded. And instead of building those facilities, we actually it's ruined completely because of the fact that we have so many needing to be educated, needing to be trained, given the required skills, especially in technology. Because if it's only this paperwork you read and then you become a teacher, you become a lecturer, and so on and so on. I mean, had really taken us out to be able to be a industrialized nation. And again, the facilities, as those of the participants have actually mentioned, we don't have power. You don't have power to drive the economy. You don't have power to drive the industries. You don't have power to do anything for yourself. So really, the system of education that the colonial masters left, if we had built it and we actually naturalize it, bring it back home to suit our own situations and conditions. I mean, you had primary six, standard six students or graduates going back to their school to teach, and they taught well. Today, you have children, graduates that cannot speak a complete sentence correctly. Even if it's the mother tongue, in fact, it is the corruption of the mother tongue that our children speak to this day. This is the system. The institutions has not been developed and built. And the only institutions that are built that could lead to emancipation. But what we have, we talk about the rule of law. In our days, when you offend in the school, you are disciplined. You be put under some pressure not to do the wrong thing again. No, it's not there. There is so much laissez-faire in the system. People. I mean, it's funny that even parents go to help their children to recruit people to do examinations for them. The children don't repeat the classes anymore, just mass promotion and so on. It is the politics that was introduced into education and to different areas that could have helped the people.
Okay.
And that's why we have failed.
All right.
We have failed and we are still failing.
Okay.
But for the private...
Well, like you say, the politics came in and interfered with everything. We attempted to ask. Dr. Ajula raised that issue earlier on of corruption. And so, did the politics interfere with the process of rule of law? And,
well, I want to...
Or was it that was... In fact, the legal system, can we say that the colonialists bequeathed a responsive legal system to the new independent Nigerian state? Then?
Let me start with this, your first question, that whether it is the politics that destroy the rule of law. I don't want to believe that it is politics. It is the embedded corruption in it. Because when we talk of politics, we talk of interest. And there's a way your interest can be ventilated. There's a way your interest can be protected and be pursued if you use the set rules that is agreed between parties to do that. It is as if I'm buying things, we agree on the terms, and anytime I try as much as possible to change that rules of our engagement, it is already being tweeted, it's already turned into corruption, and exactly this is what is happening. So this is not the issue of politics alone, it is the issue of individual, I won't call it inordinate ambition, because ambition can be pursued within the set rule. Now to your question on the rule of law. Rule of law, we all know, it is more of a set of rules that is being used to run, to superintend a certain society, in which you have the set of government. And mind you, this rule of law are those things that is being agreed by the parties. For example, between those who rules and the government, those who are being ruled. And the essence of it is this: it is acceptable standard all over, anywhere, that you find that when we have that, things will be smoothly. You know who gets what, you know within which rules of engagement you are playing. For example, I'm playing football. I know that once I touch the ball, it will be penalty or be foul and it will be recorded against me. But in a situation Once we have that rules, and it is being turned because I want to score at all means, I pick the ball, I run with the ball, I throw it to the net, and nobody is saying anything, then something is wrong. And that's why I raised the issue of corruption. And for example, Nigeria, we started on a good note. Our colonial master, I believe, of course, we all travel, we all go to UK, you know what is happening. They bequeathed a very good system or not. And what happened? Within the first 5 years, some set of people choose to eliminate some people, take law into their hand. That is beginning of corruption. I don't want to call it cool. I believe that because some people believe to take that, and that is where the problem started till today. And when you ask whether the rule of law being bequeathed to us, whether it is, the only way to answer that question is this: the same set of rules is being used in some country, United States of America and UK, and most of it, you find out that it's okay. Now, how manage we've not been able to get it right in our own climb. It is because of the same things. Because we believe we need to do it without any consequence. Until we realize that for any of our action, there's always a consequence, either good or bad. Unfortunately, our consequence is what we are complaining, what we are discussing, and what we are interrogating. It is once you choose to deviate from acceptable norms, acceptable standards, acceptable agreement, things go wrong. Before, as at the time we are having the independence, the idea is that there will be some region. What happened today? How managed? Can we say that the groups that, because if you remember, I remember there was a time I was doing any research on it. Over nothing less than 12 different constitutional conferences. Our leaders going to a United States, having meeting for all the minority. I remember there was a time that the Queen sent a senior official to Nigeria to address minority rights and how they be taken care of. Everything has been taken, well discussed, well ventilated. But what we have, immediately we are to start it on our own. The whole thing was turned upside down, and that is why.
All right, we have a number of reports that will be playing back in the course of this discussion, and yes, just before Professor Kedife comes in to respond to some of the issues that Dr. Ajilo has raised, let's get to see the very first report in the series we have during this conversation. And this one is from Lagos. It's put together by Abolade Salami.
From a historic perspective, the interplay between ethnic rivalry and challenges of national security, which have in recent times become very compelling with rampant cases of terrorist attacks, murder, mayhem, and all sorts of vices in some parts of the country, does not define the true Nigerian people. The principle of unity in diversity, in which lies our strength as a people, is very paramount. Debilitating issues relating to culture and religious differences, including political affiliations, should not hinder the relative peace and stability which Nigeria and Nigerians enjoy as the most populous black nation in the world.
When infrastructure is provided, when Medicare is provided, nobody asks you whether you are Yoruba or Niger Delta or all along, but particularly for sustaining peace and unity.
However, over the years, Nigerians have been living together, working together, fight as one people, and have achieved so much in spite of our differences since the attainment of our independence in 1960. The ideology, together we stand, divided we fall, is one aspect that the founding fathers maximized to take the nation to where she is today. In the light of this, patriotic Nigerians have been charged to be active players in providing solutions to the recurring challenges of sectionalism, nepotism, religious and traditional beliefs, as well as economic growth, rather than destroy what has been built for many years.
Let's first and foremost recognize one fact, and that is that Nigerians by nature are peaceful people. I'm not going to sit in this chair looking at you and advocate the disintegration of that unity. It will be a disservice to Nigeria as a nation state and to the Nigerian people.
In fact, what I'm trying to say is that ethnicity
And nepotism should be eradicated.
More than ever before, observers say harnessing the many potential in human and natural resources from the various segments for national development is what Nigerians should be bothered about. This, they believe, will in turn place the country above our equals to compete with other developing nations of the world.
All right. Just before that report, Tukayode Ajulo was trying to piece together what could have happened. And Professor Kenife, you were going to cut it at that point. But yes, but just before you do that, there's a belief that governance issues, the failure of governance, is partly responsible for an economy that sometimes can be described as almost in a shambles.
Correct. The three speakers are correct, but they are on different sides of the coin. The professors talked about the failure of governance and its impact on the economic structures and the economic institutions. The former minister says we have weak institutions. Now, these weak institutions arose from the Constitution, because the tensions around the Constitution is the impact that it has on the political arrangements and the political structures. And then, of course, the institutions are not being enabled, and that's where you see the weaknesses in institutions. But where Prof was going on governance is actually trying to say political determinism of the economy, because the political economy factors are what are breeding the corruption you were talking about. That's what is breeding the inequality. That's what is breeding the lack of incompetence in the system, in the whole strata. All of those are being bred by political economy interest. That's the interest of private interest that supersede national interest. And that comes to governance, and that's how it affects the economy. So all the economic structures are all failing because they are not on right footing. They are infested by the political economy factors, and one of them is the corruption we are talking about, and all the weaknesses that we see. They're all affecting them. And I think, that brings it all together, what we are saying. And the sooner we rise above this. And there have been occasions in the journey where the country come together and raise a voice against, you've seen like NSAS, where they said, spontaneous reaction. You've seen various things that come at some points where people rise against particular symptom in the economy. If you take, for example, what caused all the unrest in the North Africa was one unemployed person decided to pour petrol on himself and put himself on fire in Tunisia. And that fire raged across the whole of North Africa. So if education begins to fail, and we are finding that 9% of the graduates coming out of education are not finding jobs, then we have to interrogate the education system that is producing 93% of jobless people. So in the same way, if the judiciary begin to fail, then we have to go to the root of it and then see, this is why it is failing. You have, aptly analyzed that structure. So we have to take back our economy. We have to take back our politics. We have to take back, because what was bequeathed by the colonies, as you said, wasn't exactly what has transmuted. Hasn't been exactly what it is. It's just the nature of those unseen hands, those political economy factors that have been reshaping all the institutional structure, weakening the institutions. And you have strong people, but you don't have strong institutions.
Okay. All right, Professor Kabir Matu, I know you say that some aspects of this discussion have been overflogged in institutions and public discourse, but I'd still like you to comment on this. You do hear people say that the very structure of Nigeria as one country was faulty right from the start, that it was not put together to succeed. It was put together just for some people to be able to reap the economic benefits. And that's why every time you take 2 steps forward, you probably take 1 backwards or something like that. Do you agree with that analogy?
Agree with that, Cyril. I think, again, that's an integral part of, the very huge academic exercise that, professors and academicians usually get engaged with. The reality of the situation is that every federal system that you have across the globe is peculiar, was formed in one way or the other, not necessarily bearing the same foundation or conditions. For instance, the American federalism, the United States federalism, was formed not in the same way as the Indians are federating, or Canada, or Nigeria, or Ethiopia, or any other country for that matter. So for anybody to assume that he has to be available or she has to be present when the decision to federate was taken, otherwise it's null and void, in my view, is hypothetical and a mere expression of the ignorance of that particular individual or group of people on what constitutes a federal system of government. The Nigerian arrangement, let it be said by anybody that it was merely an amalgamation that took place by the colonial masters in 1914. The constitutional conferences and other meetings that my colleagues in the studio there have been talking about were some of, the steps and, the processes that were followed, even by the colonial administration, in order to ensure that a federal system did emerge in this country. And the debate that is raging in Nigeria today, and not just today, for a very long time, if you look at its very genesis and foundation, you will find that it's always coming to bear as a matter of, politicking. Politicking in the sense that if you take the history of trade to secession in this country, you will find that, it didn't just start with the Civil War in 1967. In fact, it did happen in the 1950s, where, when the eastern and the western parts of Nigeria said they wanted self-government, and the northern region said they were not prepared. One of the conditions that the northern leaders presented at that time was that if the British colonial administration insisted on ensuring that there has to be, self-government for all the regions, then the northern region might actually pull out of, the Nigerian Federation. The Southwest also did threaten, to pull out of the Nigerian Federation. So it's not a new phenomena that we are seeing today. The difference between what happened then and what is happening today is largely anchored on trivial political, factors of power acquisition in, the heated competition for the control of political power, so that we allocate resources. Every major group within the Nigerian alliance begins to issue one threat or the other. Now, let me give you an example. From 1999, when the civil administration started in this country, up to 2007, when President Obasanjo left, the debate as to the character and characteristics of the Nigerian Federation was different from when Umar Yar'Adua took over in 2007 and until he left, and then Goodluck Jonathan also, continued up till, 2015. The national discourse as far as the content and character of Nigerian federal system was different from what we are, seeing today. So it's a usual thing that, the elites will always come out with their contraptions in the pursuit, aggressive pursuit for that matter for political power, to begin to injure the sensibilities of the average or the generality of the population, of this country. So I do not believe with the theory or those who are postulating the fact that the Nigerian creation was an accidental creation. It was a deliberate creation, even if it was spearheaded by the British, but the local Nigerian leaders of the various segments of the country at that material point in time were party to whatever discussion that took place. And unless if we are saying, like I did see, that unless if I am part of the discussion, or you are part of the discussion, or she's part of the discussion, we are not going to respect it, that's it. And you don't expect every federal structure. And the military government that we have run in this country from 1966 up till the coming of the, civilian administration in 1999 was responsible for the over-centralization. In the First Republic, we had a better federal structure. The regional governments had their constitutions aside from the federal constitution. They had certain relative autonomies. Businessmen, politicians did not want to leave Ibadan, Enugu, or Kaduna and go to Lagos simply because they wanted recognition. The over-centralization of the political structure arising from the age-long military rule has contributed tremendously. And of course, even the mutilation of the Nigerian federal units, the states.
Professor Kabir Matu, we'll ask you to pause a while because we're getting to other aspects that we're going to raise. But let's get to see this other report that's coming from Kaduna. And this one is by Achari Maxwell. And once we've taken this report, we'll also come back and look at other matters that have been raised. But surely it's not all a tale of woe, because Nigeria has indeed made progress in so many areas. But let's see this report from Kaduna, Achari Maxwell.
Nigeria is the most populous nation in Africa, in addition to multiplicity of tribes and religious beliefs. From pre-independence, Nigeria marked by struggles for self-actualization. Barriers have been collapsed through exchange of trade, commerce, and social engagements to strengthen cooperation and development. After independence, there were more reasons for a country full of opportunities and diversity to forge ahead as one indivisible nation in peace and progress. More than 6 decades ago, and still reflecting, it is work in progress according to stakeholders, believing that the country should continue to leverage on the strength of differences to keep building for a greater country in the journey ahead.
I want to see a Nigeria where there is no Yoruba man, no Igbo man. There is only one man in Nigeria. He is a Nigerian.
Please forget about tribal sentiments and think of I'm a Nigerian, and don't say I'm a Yoruba or Hausa anything. We have passed that stage.
Leadership is central to a country's aspirations. Like Nigeria, hence observers strongly recommend entrenching justice, equity, fair play, and sense of belonging to all segments of society.
Ancestrally, we are all from one family. That is the family of Adam and Eve. Therefore, we should do all that we can to ensure that our societies are devoid of violence.
If you are a father, if you are a mother, if you are anybody, if you are a leader, wherever you find yourself, do the needful.
There's no place like this country. Whatever you are complaining about, when you look over your shoulder to another country, you see that worse things are happening.
There are also binding commitments in the beautiful words of the national anthem.
The next 61 years, I want Nigeria to be like heaven, where everybody will live in peace. You can sleep well and say, oh God. When you wake up, you say, God, I thank you.
The desire for national cohesion is unending as leaders and leads, as well as different communities, continue to embrace peace, dialogue, and understanding for survival of the country.
All right, at this point, we'll take a break. When we return, we'll continue this discussion. 61 years of Nigerian independence, the challenges, and the development strides that have been taken. Stay with us.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. #Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the the nation.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
All right, I expected the discussion continue in the studio here, even as we took that break. The issues such that no one can afford to just ignore them. And so we start off this segment. Hopefully, this is the part of it that the phone lines will be open and you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. And remember what I said at the start of this program. And if you do get through, for those who are calling in tonight, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set and go straight to the point. Keep it short and simple, and don't bother about the greetings. It's okay. We just want to get as many people as possible to air their views. So let's look at other aspects of it. Yes, we've had so many challenges, and Professor Kabir Mato has spoken about the military coming into the political sphere, and quite a number of Nigerians would blame so many woes on that. But then there are others who would say, even when you had what was known as an undemocratic setting, the nation still made some progress. And some of the infrastructure you see today were actually put in by those undemocratic forces that seized power. How do you explain that?
Well, first, the issue of undemocratic force, I don't want to believe is as true as it's being peddled. And I say this from the point that, it depends on the way and from the side of who's making that assertion. As it is today, we have a constitution, irrespective of how faulty we may believe it is. And it is through that process of that constitution, we have those we have in government today. So by that, as a lawyer, I think it is so obvious that what we're having is democratic system of government. How good or how it is that what we all need, of course, individual aspiration always differs. And with that, some laudable program infrastructure, as to say, we can still see that. Like, for example, the issue of railway, it is something that is phenomenal, no matter whatever you can call it, because some years back, I don't think I will come from UK to take the train, going to Kaduna, going to Lagos. Sometimes some of us use that. This is one of the things we should know. And like I said, irrespective of whatever it is, I mentioned it in my open speech, that one thing, whatsoever you may say against Nigeria, one thing that stands that we should be proud of is that still today, Nigeria is united.
All right. Well, Prof, democracy in itself, that's progress, isn't it? Some of us would still remember those early morning martial music on radio, and that's not happening anymore. So
that's true.
Right.
That's a big plus. But I have to tell you, if you go outside Nigeria and talk to other countries, there's something they admire about Nigeria, that the ordinary Nigerian, the average Nigerian, is very homely. They're welcoming people. They want to live together. They work together. They market together. They do things together. They're very resilient. When you talk about resilience, it is the resilience of the ordinary person on the street. I remember when Obasanjo visited in the first year of his presidency, 1999, he came to London. And then he said that when he came into office, every region was screaming they want to go. He now had to go down and visit them one by one. Each time he went round, none of them ever said they want to go. They said they want to stay. But they were saying the condition is that they are being marginalized. Even in Southwest, where he comes from, they told him that they are marginalized. He said, marginalized when I'm president. He said, yeah, you're president, but we didn't vote for you. That is how they see marginalized. But the fact of the matter is that when you take the man on the street wants to live in peace. But when they start throwing all those governance issues and all these asymmetries, and then they put fire. And then we'll start splitting. We'll start, the man wants to live. We all want to live together in peace and work together and shop and live anywhere. Anywhere you want. Anambra man was a mayor of Enugu. Azikiwe won the election in the West. I mean, what is all this about? The average man wants to live in peace.
All right. The lines are open. It would seem we have Stanley, right, from Lagos, calling in from Lagos. Stanley, hello. If you're there, go right ahead.
Hello. Yes. I'm calling from Lagos. Hello, I can hear you. So my contribution to the matter of the day, the challenges that Nigeria is having, which is our political systems in this country. We are not helping the poor masses. Because when election come now, you see our people spend money to the poor masses and confuse them without telling them the fact, what is going on, how Nigeria will become an independent country, and what challenges Nigeria is facing. What we do is to our own personal selfish interest. I could remember those days in my school days. I was taught about
All right. Okay, I think we lost that call from Stanley. But anyway, we heard him clearly from the start of it, and he again is putting the blame on the political system. But I think right. So let's go over to Ibadan and there. Yes, we'll try to get Senator Anishilo back online. Looks like there are some issues with the connection there, but we'll check in on her again as we go on. But then, Dr. Ajulo, yes, we've made some progress, and one of the biggest challenges today has to do with insecurity. Well, and there are people who would say it has never been this bad. Yes, there were challenges, but not so bad as almost every citizen is scared of stepping out of their homes.
Well, when it comes to issue of security, one, I don't think one need to give any excuse for what happened, because it is primarily the role of government to secure security and welfare of the citizenry happen to be the primary roles of government, which is enshrined in our constitution.
Okay, let me just ask you to hold on a while, see if we can get Olabode, who's calling in from Lagos, quickly on the line. Olabode, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my contribution is that our elite must put the national interest forward.
Right, that's it. Well, straight to the point. The elites must put the country's interest first. Right, okay, go ahead.
So, like I said, it's enshrined in the Constitution that when it comes to security and welfare of the citizenry, it is sole responsibility of the government. Anyway, that one we now foreclose that individually, Nigerian citizenry needs to do something about the security. But one thing again we need to know is this: the essence of statehood itself is to have a monopoly on the use of violence. And I believe with that, and as long as government continue to hold that, then this issue of, because recently, and that has been my worry, these non-state actors seem to be gaining upper hand, and that is why I believe the government need to take a decisive action, particularly on that. Because if in a situation where some group of people can come together and to come to try to overhaul the security apparatus, then something is going on. And having said that, and I think we still need to go back to the basic thing I've been raising, though I won't call it corruption again. Address the rule of law. It is not until when you obey the law, some constitutional provisions as it is, has to for example, when we talk of issue of federal character, the principle of federal character, it must be followed to the total, because the essence of most of this security has to do with sentiment. People get sentimental about some issues, and in a situation where there is room to allow such, and particularly where fit columnists can use it to tweet and tickle the brains and the feeling of the people, then we will continue to have this. And that is why most of the things that is happening in some state is unfortunate that we should not be. Though with some other things happening in South Africa, in some areas, of course, we are having our own part, like what happened in Libya, we're having the feedback. Those are the part of the thing we
all right, back to the phone lines now. Emmanuel from Delta is calling in. Hello, Emmanuel. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to contribute to the issue of insecurity. You know, it's a tragedy that a big country like Nigeria, the eyes of Africa, that it's very scary for a city and face armed robbers and kidnappers all over everywhere. So the government have clearly failed because they've not strengthened our police sector, which has not been done for some time now.
All right. Thank you, Emmanuel. Let's go over to Professor Kabir Matu in Kaduna. Well, Prof, people have spoken about the insecurity. I mean, Kaduna, where you are, is in the eye of the storm in these matters. And so many Nigerians feel it's one of the biggest challenges the country has faced in all of its 61 years of independence. Let's hear your views on this.
Experiencing a very precarious situation where, ungoverned spaces, non-state actors, are waxing stronger. But I want to think and also believe that with the concerted efforts that the security apparatuses of the Nigerian state are deploying, very soon, by the grace of God, this matter will be a matter of history. But fundamentally, I think what has fueled this level of insecurity more than anything else, I think, is the seeming collaboration on the part of the civil and unsuspecting population, who, in partnership with the criminals in the various hideouts, are perpetrating these heinous crimes against humanity. It has become so despicable to the fact that it's difficult for one to even detect or understand who is a criminal and who is not. Not the man, brandishing guns and then stopping by the, on the highways or in the middle of the bush, but the collaborating forces that are living within the societies, in my view, are apparently, more culpable and more dangerous than the criminals that are in the bushes. But like I said, I'm aware that a lot of effort is being put in place, and that's why in Kaduna today and in several other parts of the northwestern region where this crisis is, at its peak, you find that even telecommunication service has been temporarily suspended. It's amazing, and I want to believe that the Nigerian, we have said this time and again, that it's impossible for the state to provide adequate security cover for the over 200 million citizens that we have in this country. Security is everybody's concern. As long as we are not ready to play our own, little role, no matter how it is, then it becomes very difficult for the security agencies themselves to come to terms and be able, to address this problem very squarely, so that it can be, brought to an end. I want to also think again that it's our responsibility as citizens, to take, that's why out of frustration I believe a lot of these leaders were misquoted, saying you need to defend yourself. I mean, it's about you also being a partner, in the war against crime. You being a partner to the, security agencies to be able to disclose the information and provide raw data that will form the basis of intelligence that will lead, to the addressing of these criminalities, rather than simply sitting back in your home and expecting some government somewhere or some, security personnel somewhere will be there to protect you, at any point in time. It's not possible. So collectively, I think security should be our own, general concerns, and we must be able to come out in our own ways and contribute as well as partner with the security agencies in order to be able to address this problem. Yes, it is, Kaduna is part of it, but I'm sure we are, seeing to the end of it, and by the grace of God, it will be a matter of listen. But importantly, there is a need also on the part of governments at various levels to look at the issue of social policies. Social policies are very critical. If you are to address insurrections and all, forms of criminalities, such as the ones that we are seeing occurring in virtually all parts of the country, not just in the northwest, in the northeast, north central, southwest, and even southeastern part of Nigeria.
We'll ask you to hold on still, and we're still in Kaduna because we have a caller from Kaduna, Joshua, who's on the line. Joshua, if you're there, just go right ahead. No. That's a dropped call right now. So, yes, we'll okay. Have we been able to reestablish links with Senator Anishilo in Ibadan? Yes, we have. So we'll go over to Ibadan and Senator Anishilo, yes, with the insecurity all over the place, Nigerians been called on to be part of the solution by collaborating with government and other agencies to bring it down to the barest minimum. But there is a key aspect of it all, and some people have said it's the social policies that have given rise to agitations and criminality and all kinds of things. So, and people look at it and say, over the years, so many of our values have been eroded. How can we get back on track?
It has to start with the homes, because the institutions, as I've said earlier, are weak. They are weak. The kind of children we're bringing up now, they are children that are not actually taught to respect the rule. They are not taught to respect the rules, and therefore, from the homes, parents should start thinking back how they were raised, especially those of us in the 70s and above. We should look at how we were raised. And if we look very deeply, we found out that those values that were inculcated into us at that time were no more there. Children, even when we went to secondary schools, you have the work you do in the morning before you go to school, and when you come back from school, you go for siesta. After that, you go for preparation for the second day. And things are, the institutions right from the home is weak. It's very weak. And then when they get out there again, those institutions have not been built to support them. They have not been built to support them. Checks and balances are not there. And because of that, there is so much lawlessness. And when people get out of school, in those days, you get menial work to do. These days, our children, they don't want to do such. They want to go to start from the top, and it's not possible. In most cases, when you start from the top and you fall from the top, it's a disaster. But what we should do is to look at the institutions, the social institutions, the health institutions, the educational institutions. We should look deeply to see how we can manage and build the broken walls. The walls are broken, and some of the walls are scattered. They need real architectural real architectural definitions that could actually bring those things together. And we must trust ourselves. We should do less politics when it comes to education, when it comes to our health system, when it comes to security. We should do less politicking. Politics politics is the science of socializing. It's a science of community living. We should learn to live with ourselves as we used to in the past, when we were our neighbors keepers, our brothers keepers. When neighbors in your surroundings take care of your children, they look at what they do outside and they report back, and they also strive evil associations. Now things have not gone well as it should be. So we should learn to trust ourselves more, though it's a bit difficult, but we have to. If we trust God and we pray to God that we don't really see physically, we should be able to trust ourselves a little and devolve some things to ourselves to do. We shouldn't concentrate on we, us. That is what has ruined the system. So I believe that.
We'll return to you in the meantime. But talking about trusts, Dr. Ajulo, can the Nigerian people trust the judiciary and trust that the system that we have is one that will provide that bedrock for rule of law, and such things as we've talked about here? Surely in 61 years, the judicial system has gone through so many changes.
Okay, let me quickly declare interest here before I answer your question. That I'm a practitioner. I'm a minister in the Temple of Justice, and you just mentioned where one practice. So I'm afraid it may sound, maybe one seem to be a bit patronizing, but one thing that is so clear is this: today we have three arms of government: judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. If there must be anyone that must be trusted, and of course evidence abounds when it comes to that, it is the judiciary. And I say this particularly, you need to see the way they check, they discipline themselves in every way. Unfortunately, and I need to say this again, that most of the hues and cries of those accusations against the judiciary, mostly when it comes to judicial issues, that is political issues, that of course is two ways. Those who are the losers will continue to complain, while the winner will say the democracy is working. If tomorrow you lose, you have to castigate the judiciary. But I need to say that judiciary, most of what they do, most of the time, you need to see most of those commercial disputes that you see how it is being settled. You need to read our law reports. You know that our judiciary, they are still up to their game, and they need to be trusted. I need to say that, and I want you to do that. Check very well. Anytime there's any accusation against judiciary, it will basically be when it comes to political issues. That's why some of us do ask, maybe politics should be insulated. There must be some other political.
Okay, so even as you recognize that it's mostly on political issues, but someone would say, well, is it not a cause for concern that most decisions which should be taken by the people's vote come from the judiciary? It's a misnomer, isn't that?
No, it is not misnomer. That is why we talk of you asked me some question about rule of law. It is what we agreed. It is what is in the Constitution. It is what is the law. That whenever there is dispute, where it can be resolved, it's with the judiciary. It's with our court. And again, whatsoever it may be, the balance before is that whatever may be, let the Lord take its course, even if heaven must fall. And the essence why heaven has not been falling is because we have strong institutions to hold the heaven from falling. But unfortunately, somebody recently told me that even let the heaven fall, maybe if they can see the God, they can see God behind it, on top of it. But as it is, we need to continue to trust our judiciary, and that's why we say they are the last hope of common man. Not only common man now, even the real elite. They patronize the judiciary than even the common man now.
Wankwo is calling in from Enugu. Hello, Wankwo. Go ahead.
So, good evening. Happy Independence to all of you there.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah. My contribution is Nigeria has gone very far, and I want to thank God for that, for uniting us together. But I want to let the whole country know that what is stabilizing Nigeria today is political will, political of non-inclusion. If you can take far back, Nnamdi Azikiwe was born in Ziguero. Before his birth, he could know that his parents had stayed in Ziguero in Niger State for almost 15 or 20 years before his birth. That is Nigeria together. People are in Southwest. If you go to where the Shaki, you will see the Igbo man there. If you go where the Sokoto, Ilela border, you will see Igbo man there. If you go to Badagry, you will see Igbo man there. Thriving in all economy, all endeavors of the economy. Why are we not including ourselves in the politics of this nation? We are saying banditry, kidnapping, Boko Haram. Those are coordinated people from different all walks of life. They are not only people from the north. Yes, because if you say people from the north, people in the north cannot be killing themselves the way they are killing. People go and collect cow that is not meant for them. Do you know that if not by the power of God, next year there will be hunger in this country because people don't go to Gona again. Gona, I mean, they don't go to farm again because of fear of banditry, kidnappers. Let us bring ourselves together. Until we know that we are one, that no Yoruba man, Hausa man, no Igbo man in Nigeria, that all of us are one. That is when Nigeria will be good. And another thing, most of you there who are leaders of this country today, they went to school with free education. Even the president today, even when they are clamoring that he's not educated, even when they are saying he didn't go to school, people around him, even when they said he's only having school certs, secondary school certs, people still say, even those who are graduates, who are professors of different class, of different professional courses in university, they still running around him and saying he must be our president. There's no tribalism there. I heard somebody saying, our Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, that he wants to thank Otimi Amechi, even in the era of COVID-19, he stood to say there must be rail. Please, for God's sake, elites are the people dividing this country. If you want to know that Nigeria is one, go to Taraba, go to Adamawa, Newman, go to far north in Marwa, in Modibo, where the common people are buying market and selling. You know there's no problem. But when it comes to Nigeria, how can somebody go and keep 30 billion naira in his treasury and you say Nigeria will grow? The common thing that we need to do is when we come together and ravage the educational system. Our mom media is saying it, but we are just looking at it as childish. The education we are now having in Nigeria is not the proper education. It's only paper certificate. That is the problem we are having. When somebody said he has finished from the university, and after university he could not put even a correct sentence, and you say that person will finally go to the labor market and become a nuisance. Nobody wants to employ somebody who cannot carry up with his employment now. So I'm begging Nigerians, our leaders, The judiciary you are talking of, they are the last hope of Nigerian common man. Then when you go there, they mess everything up. I'm sorry to say that. Even in the National Assembly, the chairman of National Assembly today, who is the state president, and his vice, who is the speaker, are they telling us that they tell us this? But I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go any long. But the only thing they will do, power. Like as I'm contributing to you now, many Nigerians do not have light to hear what I'm saying. There is power in information. Let's educate our people. Let's educate Nigerians. Our traditional institutions, our religious institutions. When someone will go and carry money that belongs to a common, look at pensioners. Somebody that I ever heard that in Ogun State, they are still paying pension at 3,000 naira. 3,000 naira that you cannot. Some of us here in Nigeria cannot use 3,000 naira to make our daily needs.
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions. Wanko was calling in from Enugu, raised quite a number of issues as well. It's all part of the discussion we are holding tonight on the gains, the pains, the challenges, and the progress that Nigeria has made these past 61 years of being an independent country. We still have a couple of reports here. This one is coming from Enugu as well. Kelechi has this next report from our Enugu studios.
In diversity in all spheres of national life is necessary in order to attain a sustainable development in the country. Nigeria as a country is endowed with both human and natural resources. There is no doubt that the obvious need for unity and peace to attain nationhood is imperative. Basically, Nigeria is referred to as the giant of Africa as a result of its diversity among other criteria that make the country a great nation, regardless of different norms, values, and religious affiliation. Concerned citizens in Enugu opined that Nigeria as a nation can achieve much from diversity if the right mechanisms are adopted to blend various differences to yield positive outcome, thereby embracing one another with love and respect, not minding a tribe or religion. According to them, a consensuous effort is necessary to promote unity in diversity.
If you go out in the streets there, every ethnic group in Nigeria is in Enugu. You find the Fulanis here, you find the Hausas here, you find the Yorubas here, you find the Doma here, you have the Tips, you have the Robos, the Benis, the Shekiris. Everybody is here in Enugu. And they're all very happy and they're doing their businesses very peacefully.
I'm from Adamawa State. I do my business here in Enugu. Enugu here is where I was born. My late father married an Igbo woman from Ungo. So I can say that my state is Enugu State.
History has it that the past and present administration have introduced different policies to unite diverse groups through a shared sense of national identity. Aside Nigeria's national symbols, which bind the citizens together, government introduced the National Youth Service Corps, which permits intertribal socialization. It also set up unity schools for ethnic nationalities. This struggle to ensure a more perfect federation, stakeholders suggested, calls for a committed enterprise if national unity and watertight security is to be achieved.
As a matter of fact, even when we were kids, we would go together to the church for catechism, and then we move from there to where we are being taught the Quran, and we were being taught the ABC in Arabic. The cooperation was so fantastic.
To this end, it is pertinent for every Nigerian to unite and sustain the one indivisible nation to champion the dream and aspiration of founding fathers that will foster national unity. In Enugu, Kelechi Ochiaga, NTA News.
All right, we still have one more report, and the next one is by Uyinaya Kaluoka here in Abuja.
The story of Nigerian railway system can best be described as that which begins with hope. Then came the dashing of hope with neglect and mismanagement. And now hope is gradually picking up as the railway system is being revived.
For more than 100 years, the British government completed Nigeria's first rail infrastructure from Ido in Lagos to Ota in Ogun State. Within this period, train service was active and the number of annual passengers rail trip was about 11 million in 1963. Sadly, in the 70s, the service began to decline due to mismanagement and neglect, and the number of annual passenger trips dropped to 1 million in 2009. After several unsuccessful attempts by past administrations to revive the rail, the coming of this administration in 2015 rekindled hope.
I grew up with a railway, and I'm happy to see it being resuscitated.
With determination and commitment to deliver effective rail system in the country, the first standard gauge railway from Abuja to Kaduna was inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2016. The 187-kilometer rail line with 10 stations has continued to gain acceptance with daily increase of passengers.
You can buy your ticket at the comfort of your house.
The thing that we are seeing abroad, it is now here together with us in Nigeria.
In 2018, another modern rail line was added to the Abuja-Kaduna rail. That is Abuja Light Rail, which connects the city center to the Idu train station and the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport.
It is a clear indication that Nigerian government, in the person of our leader, Muhammadu Buhari, has put in his best. If this is what Buhari is giving us, we should rather try more to support him.
In 2020, it was great excitement for the people of Kogi, Delta and Edo states.
So the freight movement on the standard gauge is it worry that has come up. We are moving the pipes for the AKK project.
Another interesting achievement in the rail sector by the federal government is the Lagos-Ibadan double-track standard gauge railway project.
Anybody will feel proud, high and mighty, low and lowly, would want to come to a beautiful place like this. It's just like an international airport.
Work has commenced in 3 other huge projects across the country. The $1.9 billion Kano-Maradi Rail project.
It is going to further link Nigeria and the rest of West Africa in the future.
Work is ongoing at the Port Harcourt to Maiduguri rail line for the $1.2 billion Kano to Kaduna standard gauge railway, expected to be completed in 18 months.
There is no way we won't employ a minimum of 20,000 workers on the Kano-Kaduna. Because why I say that, because I have seen the figure of approval for the payment of salaries over for 1 year.
The issues of maintenance and continuity are being considered and given top priority by this administration, with the construction of the University of Transportation in Daura, Katsina State, and the wagon assembly plant in Kajola, Ogun State. Analysts maintain that the promised change in the transportation sector is making socio-economic impacts across the country.
All right. Progress, right? A sector that was abandoned but now being resuscitated. And so Nigerians can say, well, within this period, at least there is some work in reviving a sector like the railways.
Yes. Yes. In fact, the rail line is the most efficient and cheapest means of transporting heavy goods along very long distances. That's proven. And you could tell the impact on our roads and highways because we don't have the rails working. And the last investment in laying tracks, railway tracks, was in 1927. So you can see how many years we had to abandon that infrastructure and the repercussion. In fact, the fact that the rail broke down was one of the reasons why the country was divided. Because many people were always moving around all parts of the country. But the moment those roads that discontinued, people now started coming to their shell and beginning to feel that. So that rail is so key. It's very, very key in opening up our economy. And that will support industrialization. That will support the transportation of, in fact, the mineral, solid mineral, it requires rail to get into the solid mineral area to evacuate. You can't use road. Road cost, transportation cost has tripled because it's no longer 1 day to travel from the extreme north to the extreme south. Security has made it even 3-day journey. So the cost, and then you can't have all these talks of deep sea ports, Lekki deep sea port, Badagry, Bonny, Ibaka. You can't talk about this without rail. How are you going to remove the goods? Because in the deep sea port, you have Panamax that has 17,000 containers compared to the small things we have that carry only 4,000 containers. So it's very, very strategic investment that will open the space.
All right, we have just a few more minutes to go on this program. So as we begin to wind down, let's go over to Ibadan. And once more, we'll talk to Senator Iyabo Anishilo. And this is a specific area now I want you to talk about. How well have Nigerian women been included in both governance and, of course, all the developmental processes of the country? How do we score Nigerian women?
Well, Nigerian women have gone so far into the system to help in building the system up. But I must say that we are not getting enough. We are not getting enough because when we think about the population and the federal character, which should have been applied into putting women in positions of power and authority, we have not enjoyed what we started fighting for. But we thank God because it was not like this at the beginning. We know that it's very difficult, especially where politics is at the front corner, and the use of money in politics. Women have not been so empowered to be able to have enough, to be able to struggle to position of authority. But we have been able to have men who believe and who have actually seen that women too can do better. Yeah, and so we have some support. We still need more support from the people, because if you train a woman, you will train a nation. If you train a man, you're just training an individual. And this is because God has placed it upon us to use our position, our natural endowments to be able to build the homes and to build the nation. We have done well, not too well, but we have done well. And I pray that, and I hope that in the future, more women will be brought, especially those who are technicians, women who are technicians who could work in technical industries and who could actually be there to monitor and supervise projects for government. I pray that we should be more incorporated into the system. I mean, one thing I know that if trained women, cultured women have been brought into governance, things will be better. And in terms of achieving more, we should do better. So I pray that in the future will bring better results for all the efforts the women are putting into governance, into the homes, and also into politics. So.
And it is on that note we'd like to thank you very much, Senator Iyabo Anishilo. Former Minister of Education, would like to appreciate your being with us tonight on this program. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on this program. We thank you once again. Thank you, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, let's go back to Professor Kabir Mato in Kaduna. And Prof, someone talked about the resilience and the tenacity of Nigerians. And, some people are confounded. You get to the edge, the very edge, the precipice, and somehow the country pulls back. Right now, Nigeria is facing calls, people want to break away, and so many other challenges. But you see, this is something that will pass eventually, and you see a stronger Nigeria emerging from all these troubles?
Yes, of course, Cyril. I told you that this is not the first time that Nigeria is experiencing this in its history. It did happen even during colonial period and after independence. What's happening today, I said it's merely a product of politicking by, the selfish segments of the Nigerian political and sometimes economic elites, wanting to use the issue of succession and violence as a matter of negotiation for plump political offices. And I do believe that, just like Professor there has been saying, and all of us, it's a consensus that the average Nigerian that constitute more than 95 to 96% of the over 200 million people desire to live in peace and harmony. The crisis with Nigeria lies with its selfish, and uncouched elites, both economic and political elites, that desire in their cutthroat competition for political power and access to state resources will continue to pitch one common man against the other. I agree with Mr. Wanko, who called from Enugu to say one of the greatest strategies that we have today, of course, and just like the minister in the Temple of Lord there in the studio was saying, the major issue that we're saying, we expect corruption from the political class, the executive and the legislature. The last hope of the common and uncommon man is the judiciary. And unfortunately, in Nigeria today, since the advent of civil rule, the judiciary has been performing below expectation. They have been, dragged into the murky waters of politics. President Obasanjo told us, and it's visible, we can see it, you can prove it, that justice is now for sale. It's sold to the highest bidder, especially on matters relating to politics. The judiciary must insulate itself from this. If the judiciary collapses, then the rest of the nation is unfortunately going. So I do believe that, these two shall pass. These two shall come to pass. It's one of the strategies that the Nigerian elites have used before and are using now, as a strategy of conquering political power. Nigeria will remain united despite the odds, despite the difficulties that we are facing.
One quick one before you go. I know we've always talked about this. You and I have talked about this before, but I still want to ask this. It's a quick one for you. Is it the system, or is it the way the system is done? You're a student of political systems. Is it the system, or is it the way it is practiced?
But I think it's more about the way it is practiced. Take the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Every time you have a new set of legislatures, the ambition will be to amend the Constitution to suit the individual preferences and caprices of the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, the Constitution as we have it has not been, operated minimally to see its efficacy or otherwise. But immediately we see any provision that does not favor us, or that is not comfortable, we are not comfortable with, we want to ensure that it's amended so that our wills shall be, projected in the Constitution. So you can see very clearly so many things are wrong with the, Western liberal democratic contraption that we are practicing in Nigeria. But we have seen that this has been practiced, fairly very well in other climes. And if we also try to practice it in the best way possible, it's likely that we are going to achieve, the objectives of governance much more than that it's been achieved. Trying to short-circuit the system, the elite class manipulating, everything that is, worth manipulating in order to secure benefits for selfish aggrandizement, I think contributes very immensely, in spoiling the, entire democratic exercise. So it's not necessarily about the system. It's more about the way and manner we are practicing the system. And if we will give it a trial, I do believe sincerely that we will get it minimally, at least. We will arrive at, the destination that we want to, arrive at. Otherwise, so the system itself, despite its weaknesses and lapses, is not totally, what is the problem? What is the problem is, the practitioners. Those are.
All right, so on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Professor Kabiru Mato, who joined us from our Kaduna Network Center. I would like to thank you. It's always a delight to have you join us on these discussions. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you again soon. And do stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine.
Right. Well, Prof, as we round off, there's still reason to believe in this country, and with all the issues, still something to celebrate at 61 years of independence quickly.
Yeah, we'll celebrate the hope that we will remain a strong and ever stronger united country. I have said it at the opening statement that 99.9%, at least 205 million people in this country want to live together. And they're all doing well. Go to Kano, Kaduna, go to Lagos, go to everywhere. They're all trading, they're all doing business together. And it's just those parochial interests that come, either during political arrangement or during, and then infest the system and breed all that commotion and trouble and insecurity on people that otherwise want to live peacefully.
All right. Thank you very much. And Dr. Kayode Ajulo, your closing comments?
Well, for what I've said today, it's so clear that one of the problem plaguing us is basically our political elite.
Right.
And it's expected, particularly when we raise the issue of judiciary. The essence is this: our judiciary, as long as it is, particularly in Nigeria, seem to be the best and to be trusted. The only time we see the ease and cries is when the political elites try to infiltrate the judiciary. And I think these are the things that we need to really understand very well.
All right. I'd like to thank you very much for coming on this program. And Prof, thank you too for coming on. Well, that's it. We must leave this conversation here tonight. And thank you all for being part of it. For those who called in, we thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you. Always keep coming back to NTA Tuesday Live. That's it for this program. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover, and I say continue to stay safe.
NTA. You can't beat the rich.
This week on Executive Discourse.
It took me 9 years, 4 months. But they put the place before I can get the license. Because they were obstacle. They never want private university to see light of the day so that they can continue to control like government.
Hello and welcome to Strictly Speaking. We're looking at the English language, the way we write, the way we speak, and the words we choose.
We have to come to the realization that we need help. A lot of people